I saw Wicked for Good the other day, and oh no, it was bad. And this was shocking to me, especially because I really liked the first Wicked when it came out. Wicked is about rejecting society. It's based on a Broadway show that's loosely based on a book that's loosely based on another book that is more well known for its 1939 film adaptation, The Wizard of Oz. Wicked is a movie with a lot of cultural hype surrounding it, and it is well aware of the fact. If somehow you don't know, Wicked is about the origin of the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, and how maybe she's not the bad guy after all. Perhaps the bad guy is actually society. The first film ends with one of the most iconic musical numbers of all time, Defying Gravity, and the film was praised pretty heavily by fans, critics, even some award shows.
And the Oscar goes to Wicked.
The movie's high budget allowed it to be a spectacle to be seen, with lavish sets, beautiful costumes, and visual effects at every turn. Seriously, this film is a miracle, with so much amazing work from all these different departments coming together to make something grand. It's a technical marvel. So much hard work was put into this film, yet somehow none of it trickled down to the color grading department. Ew, why is it so gray? Roasted. Yeah, that's what we call a wicked roast. If you have misophonia, please don't watch this part. Low-hanging fruit aside, the film has been lauded for its maximalist approach, as well as the performances of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, the former of which has since become one of the biggest stars in the world. She even hosted the Tonys last year and sang louder than anybody.
In this incredibly challenging time, so let us all double down now and go out and do more great.
We are so divided. Theater is a sacred space.
I think, however, as I just demonstrated, it's pretty easy to fall into the trap of talking about the paratext of Wicked, the cultural context that the film finds itself in, and the celebrity of it all, rather than talking about the actual film itself. And this video, in some ways, is no different. Everything surrounding the movie seems to be more ripe for discussion on the internet, rather than actually talking about Wicked.
Now you've really made it in your career. Yeah. You're a meme. This is the meme.
Perfect.
And there you go.
I love it so much.
And I think that's mostly because the first movie was, pardon my layman's terms here, just kind of decent. It didn't blow me away or anything, but I felt that it was a step in the right direction for the movie musical, a currently struggling genre, as we've talked about plenty of times on this channel.
And I watched the snake eat a cow.
The performances were overall pretty solid, the choreography was wonderful, and don't even get me started on how gorgeous the production design was. But it didn't stick with me nearly as much as other movies I saw last year, and I think that must be the case with other people, given how much of the internet discourse surrounding the film surrounds how Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande hold each other's fingers in press interviews.
Real, or actually make her look at herself. So that's a special moment for us, but I was just trying to keep the space as warm as possible for this one, for Elphaba.
Yeah.
Which I honestly get, because that shit's weird as hell. Cool it, Elliot and E.T. But after the first Wicked film came out, despite liking it quite a bit, I felt kind of dubious that the second one would stick the landing. The second act of Wicked isn't very strong in my opinion. The state of musical films, as I mentioned, has been dreary this decade. And honestly, I wasn't so sure that director John M. Chu would be a strong enough force to bring the films across the finish line in a satisfying way. And unfortunately, in many ways, I was right. That said, I don't want you to think that I went into this film with any negative expectation. Sure, I was worried that it wouldn't be great, but really I was hopeful. Allie and I had a really nice dinner before we reeled in the theater's scenery, looking at all of the beautiful posters. Look at this Wicked 2 fan art. I want it framed. When I saw Wicked for Good, I wanted to leave the theater and say, wow, what a pleasant surprise, much like I did after seeing the first film. But that's the thing with trying to recreate the past. It never works. Instead, I went home and started writing a video about Wicked, and let me tell you, that's the worst case scenario. So why didn't Wicked for Good meet my expectations? It seems that a lot of people sort of liked the movie, at least anecdotally I can say that to be true. Others didn't care for it, thought it was overhyped, or the fans were insufferable, but again, those aren't really complaints about the film itself. Cynthia Erivo was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance in this film, and the Oscar nominations haven't come out at the point I'm filming this video, but Low Quality Max will fill you in on that. Low quality Max here. I'm eating an edamame peep. Oh, hold on. So I low-key feel bad about this part of the video because Wicked for Good did not get nominated for any Oscars. And I don't want to harp on them because I'm sure they're already feeling bad enough. And also, I don't really give a fuck about the Oscars. It just felt like something to mention, and the reason that I thought it might is because the previous film got nominated for like 10 Oscars or something. And that's a lot of Oscars. So yeah, Wicked for Good snubbed at the Oscars. Or not really. I mean, watch the video, you'll see my opinions on that movie. It just felt kind of mean-spirited to point at them and laugh about this fact, so I just wanted to clarify, I do feel bad having to mention this. Anyway, I'll let high quality Max talk. I got a new phone, can you tell the quality's better? Except I'm shooting in HDR and it makes the color look really weird. Just another thing. No one thought it was that offensive of a movie, and if I'm being honest, neither did I. I just thought it wasn't very good. But what kind of YouTube video is that? Wishy-washy? Aren't you gonna say that Wicked 2 is the worst movie of all time and that it's offensive to some culture of people? Well, no, I'm not gonna do that. While I'm going to outline my problems with the film, I think a deeper story lies beneath Wicked for Good. A story not just about some wicked witch named Elphaba, but about a filmmaker that has circled my mind for quite some time now. The director of Wicked, John M. Chu, is an enigmatic figure to me. His filmography is shocking, to say the least. Sequels to movies nobody has talked about in 15 years, 2 documentaries about Justin Bieber in his youth, a G.I. Joe movie.
It was a G.I.
Joe retaliation.
But in recent years, Chu has transformed himself into a director that people are starting to take somewhat seriously. But how does that even happen? How does a director go from directing Step Up 2, The Streets, to 2 of the biggest movies of the decade? And what do those other films say about his directorial approach? I mean, is John M. Chu the reason that Wicked for Good ended up so mid? Do you know? Well, I wanted to. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people online saying these things about John Chu's movies, but how many of them have actually seen them all? Huh? Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. That's what I fucking thought. And that's okay. I'm not sure that I would subject anybody else to that. So I started my new year wanting to resolve my ambivalent feelings about Wicked, and I did it by watching all 11 of John Chu's movies. Jesus, 11! That's so many! Why would I do that? Why would I do that? I think you can learn a lot about a director by listening to them talk or whatever, or watching the DVD commentary of some of their films. God knows I've done that plenty of times. But I think more often than not, the proof tends to be in the pudding. People on Twitter regularly jeer at Chu's failures, saying he can't direct for shit, but is that true? Video essays declare that Wicked needed a different director, and Letterboxd says that Chu is washed. So I wanted to explore that question. Is John M. Chu actually a hack? A word that is essentially a slur if you go to film school? Which John Chu did. I'm so sorry, John. Well, as of now, I'm not so sure. So instead of going in with the assumption that he's bad or whatever, let's actually look at Wicked and compare it to some of his other works. So I did the unthinkable. I watched all of John Chu's movies, and then I returned to Wicked and tried to piece together what I felt went wrong, and if it was John Chu's fault in the first place. So, without further ado, let's go!
That ectomorphic, hypsocranial, rufopilus, leptorinian, metriocephalic gal of mine. Oh.
What makes a movie musical iconic? Is it bombastic musical numbers? Is it perfect performances? Is it the set pieces, the choreography, the way the camera changes your perspective to something you could never see from a Broadway seat? Maybe. Yes, definitely. Those things are very important. But a lurking aspect of importance that often ranks above the others, I'd posit, is camp. Camp is one of those you know it when you see it kinds of things, but don't let me fool you. People have tried to define it. Maybe most famous was Susan Sontag in her first major published work, Notes on Camp, an essay. Camp, as Sontag sees it, is damn near undefinable. Even she makes no claim to truly define the term. She rather writes a numbered list of things she's noticed to be true of the sensibility, as she puts it. She claims camp comes from a place of self-awareness and irony, an understanding that what one is doing is silly or strange. It's this constantly self-aware and post-ironic way of looking at things that leads to great fun. So if I were to go against Sontag's wishes and put it simply, I'd say that camp is being a little bad because you can, and because it's more fun that way. Famous examples of camp are movies like Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Hello.
Carrie, or anything that John Waters got his wispy little mustache on.
Could you turn that racket down? I'm trying to iron in here.
It's a sensibility that relishes in the fact that it's over the top and silly. When I think of camp, I consider an inherent truth that I'm aware of, which is that if you are caught singing and dancing and you don't own it, you are lame as fuck. Because of this truth, the musical film held on to camp with white knuckles. Singin' in the Rain is a movie full of camp, bright flashing colors, a reverence for the silly movie musicals of the past and future. Little Shop of Horrors is camp, chock full of jokes about just how ridiculous the stakes of the film are, and a giant puppet. Look at Danny Zuko go, shaking his hips all for the world to see. There's nothing cool about it, but that makes it way cooler than you'll ever be. The simple fact of being aware of unseriousness just oozes with slickness, and that is camp. Elton John and The Ugliest Thing You've Ever Seen, camp. Lady Gaga meat dress, camp. Ugly couches that are way less comfortable than they are art pieces, camp. But as Sontag notes in her essay, camp isn't so simple. It is, as she puts it, not something that can truly be fit into a mold. It doesn't have one definition, it's a sensibility, and much like any other sensibility, it can change and it can wither away. I'd argue such is the case with the modern movie musical. Camp is no longer a sensibility modern filmmakers care to have, and if they do, it comes off as formulaic. A movie like The Proms film adaptation is a perfect example, a movie full of supposed camp that just falls short because it's trying too hard. It's pretending to be something that it's not. Even James Corden is pretending to be gay.
That in this day and age, being gay isn't a crime.
I know, news to me too. Pretending.
I was the kid. I was the kid. I was 16.
As Sontag writes, camp, which knows itself to be camp, is usually less satisfying. We've reached a time in movie musical history where there's a formula to be followed, and filmmakers, more often than not, are too acutely aware of camp for them to actually be camp, and that just makes it feel soulless. Now, to John Chu's credit, I don't feel like he's trying to insert faux campiness into his adaptation of Wicked. No, in fact, the film is pretty earnest. While there are silly or campy moments here and there, they aren't the main point of focus of the film. Most of the time, Wicked takes its serious and dramatic moments with great reverence to the stakes of the film. Everything has this sort of cool tone to it. This might sound like a good thing. At the very least, the film isn't trying to insert campiness just for the sake of it, but the lack of camp leads to the film having the exact opposite problem. Wicked takes itself way too seriously. Worth mentioning here is that Wicked, the Broadway musical, is incredibly campy. In the very first number, a green baby doll is held up into the air. Tiny bubbles surround Kristen Chenoweth as she flies through the sky. A magical man seduces a woman with a green elixir. He even rhymes it with mixer. All of these moments in Wicked's film adaptation, however, are played off in a sort of cool way, or at the very least, they don't lean into any of the silliness that the original production does. The baby is held up and it's dramatic. Even the way the dad sings It's Obscene is different. In comparison to the head-voicey high note he hits in the original, he belts it in the film. Full-throatedly and guttural, pure operatic melodrama.
It's uncanny.
Damn, he hates that green bitch. Glinda's entrance on the bubble is shot with a hero shot. Moments that are goofy in the original are now taken seriously. There's no self-awareness when this man comes in flaunting his green elixir. The scene is shot in a very cool oneer. It's an impressive moment of filmmaking, but it leaves me yearning for more.
So have another drink of green elixir, and we'll have ourselves a little mixer.
Now, those moments don't bother me so much as I think they represent a different approach that the movie takes compared to the musical. Where Wicked the musical leans into camp and silliness to portray its ideas, Wicked the movie takes a much more serious tone. But little moments here and there just alter the feeling from the original production further and further, making Wicked an incredibly self-serious set of films. Even the musical numbers are affected by this, as are certain performances. Perfectly exemplifying both of those things is Jeff Goldblum, who of course is literally incapable of being camp because he is so preoccupied by not looking like a total goofball in this movie. He mutters all of his lines and mumbles all of his songs, trying not to perform this over-the-top and whimsical dialogue in any fun way.
Right next to mine, because maybe someday you're going to be calling this whole pile of stones your home.
Did he just not care to be in the movie? I like Jeff Goldblum. Don't get me wrong, I like Nashville. What a dumb example. But can't he just let his guard down for a second?
Chistry here. Have you ladies met Chistry? The leader of my Emerald Guard.
You're in a fanfic movie of the Wizard of Oz. It's not deeper than that, dude. Jesus, live a little.
'Cause I think everyone deserves the chance to fly.
And while it's annoying that Goldblum won't go the extra mile, the real problem here isn't that there are no silly moments, no camp whatsoever. The movies have their campy moments, like Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth pulling up out of nowhere just to sing some bullshit.
Sing a joyous.
I lost my shit when they pulled up. What a fucking miserable sequence. But I can't say that that's not a little camp. That's not the problem. The problem really lies more in the confusing tone of the film, which diminishes any moment that's supposed to be funny and those that are meant to be taken seriously. And that bothers me. That bothers me. It makes the movie much less effective at its goals. Now, this is the case more with the second film rather than the first, mostly because the second act of Wicked is just kind of like that. There's a lot to wrap up in a short amount of time, and it's not particularly strong. I will get to that later. But even then, the second act of Wicked is not starved for any campy moments. At the end of the second act of Wicked, we see Elphaba yelling at who we can assume to be Dorothy in her dungeon. It's a bit of a throwaway gag that exists to give us a moment of reprieve after a few really dramatic sequences.
Oh, for God's sake, stop crying! Can't listen to it anymore. You want to see your Aunt Em? And your Uncle, what's his name again? Then get those shoes off your feet! Squealy little brat.
It's here we see Elphaba fully turned into the Wicked Witch of the West, and it should be fun, indicative of the original 1939 film. It gets a laugh in the theater anyway.
Takes a dead woman's shoes? Must have been raised in a barn!
However, when this scene plays out in Wicked for Good, it's incredibly dramatic. You hear Elphaba scream at this girl from the depths of her heart.
Oh, for God's sake, stop crying! I can't listen to it anymore. You want to get home and see your aunt, what's her name again? Then get those shoes off your feet!
And I know that that's nitpicking, but there are little changes to the humor or campy aspects of the original Wicked musical that just make the movie much less enjoyable to watch. Like, look at the scene where Glinda and Elphaba reunite.
I still can't believe you get around on that old thing.
Well, we can all come and go by bubble.
True.
Like, that's a joke, right? But it's sort of hard to tell, given the performance. It's definitely a joke in the original show.
Well, we can't all come and go by bubble.
But it was changed in the film to be done in a much more earnest way, a way that neglects the absurdity of the situation. The camp. In the director's commentary for Wicked for Good, Chu talks about changing the intention of this line, and it's really telling.
This joke that she says about the broomstick and she says about the bubble in the show plays as like a big joke, a broad joke. But we almost cut the joke because it just didn't feel appropriate. But they were like, we can find a way to make it a bridge and not like a big joke, and sort of brings them back to their friendship.
This to me shows a misunderstanding from Chu of what the original joke does, implying it lessens the importance of the scene. But it doesn't. In fact, in my opinion, it makes their friendship clearer and stronger. But this middle ground just fiddles with the tone further, and it leads to a weaker understanding of their relationship. By changing bits like that, every moment in the film feels like it's played with the same amount of gravity, the same intensity. For instance, this moment where Elphaba just found out that her sister literally just fucking died is played with the same intensity as the moment where Elphaba and Glinda are arguing about going to see the wizard.
You to see the wizard?
Absolutely not.
Yes.
No. This is between the wizard and I. Those shoes are all I have left of my sister. They weren't yours to give.
Why are these moments so similar? Clearly they would hold different weight to Elphaba, but she feels exactly the same throughout the entire movie. She has the same conviction across the entire film, even when she's confronting her sister.
For what? He hated me.
That's a wicked thing to say.
No, it's not. It's just the truth. Do you know why?
God, every scene in this movie feels so dramatic. It makes it such a genuinely dreary watch.
Run.
Listen, I'm all for earnest drama, but come on, this is wicked. Shit like this happens in the stage musical, but at the very least it's leaning into the campiness of it all. It's contrived, but I don't care as much, because at least I'm laughing. Here, everything is treated equally epic.
Goodbye, Nessa. I'm off to see the wizard.
In the second film, Elphaba is rarely allowed to be anything other than righteous and serious, which to me makes her character way less interesting. And Erivo's performance just hits the same beat over and over again. There's no progression of her anger, it just feels like she's either upset and confronting someone with a stern face.
You and I are gonna go down there together, and you are gonna admit to her guests that you have no real power and that you cannot read the Grimoire.
Or belting. There's no in between. Now don't be fooled, it's not just the funny moments being treated seriously that weaken the tone of the movie, it's the serious ones as well. Let's go back to that scene I talked about earlier, where Elphaba discovers that her sister, Nessa, has just died. First of all, the iconography of the Wicked Witch of the East's shoes underneath the house is entirely gone, which is something that I've never really seen mentioned, but it feels like yet another way to distance themselves from the campy original. Secondly, this moment feels like it doesn't know whether or not it's supposed to be dramatic. It feels like it shouldn't be funny, right? Given how the film treats similar moments like this, and the fact that, you know, Elphaba's sister just got slimed. But Elphaba and Glinda get into a huge fight, and it almost turns into a lighthearted romp. It's like a big physical comedy bit. And there's jokes scattered throughout.
Please. Where'd you get that?
Chu addresses this in the bonus features of Wicked for Good on Blu-ray, something that I bought for some reason.
Whenever I see your smiling face, I have to smile myself because I love you.
These two women had to really find how they would get into the comedy of the fight, because you want that comedy, but it's a really hard one to pull off in a movie, trying to take really good care of the tone. And believe in the stakes that are at hand.
So if Chu understands that the tone keeps changing, why does he do so little to justify it? He clearly understands the shifting tone, the whipping back and forth, as he puts it.
The tone just whips us back and forth.
But it just feels without reason, and it happens at the drop of a hat. One moment Elphaba is pissed, and the next she's play fighting. How is that being careful with the tone? It's just changing it sloppily. On top of that, in a bonus feature of the Blu-ray, the stunt choreographer says this.
It was making it fun, not making it like they kind of actually wanted to kill each other.
And this moment bewilders me. Why don't they want to kill each other? Why can't this be a moment of actual drama? It seems like this is the moment that their emotions would be the highest, and it is, but it's played for laughs, and it just doesn't read.
Come on, let's go, Greedy. Use your hands.
Chiming in here really quickly as I edit the video, I feel like there's one last thing I want to mention about this scene. Now, I don't want anyone to be confused on my point here, because I understand that in the original Wicked, this scene is full of jokes.
And now that wretched little farm girl has walked off with it.
But my problem is not exactly that there are jokes in the scene, rather that the jokes don't do the same thing that they do in the Broadway show. In the show, all of the jokes derive from pure anger, pure hatred between these two people who at one point loved each other so deeply, whereas in the movie, all of the jokes come from the idea that the characters still kind of like each other. In the musical, I think this scene functions really well with humor, because the humor only adds to what we know the characters are feeling about each other. But in the movie, that's not the case, and I think it does come down to Chu's misunderstanding of how to properly convey the right tone here. Anyway, I felt like that was worth explaining. I hope you're all doing well. I love you.
The scene has so much emotional whiplash it confuses the audience on how they're supposed to feel. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Confusing the audience and making them feel at odds with the characters can often be a really interesting cinematic tool. But with Wicked, I think it's indicative of a larger problem, the film not understanding what it needs to be. It's extra confusing when later in this scene, Elphaba's reaction to her boyfriend getting kidnapped is to dramatically fly off and sing while casting spells. Why is that her reaction to this when she didn't give a fuck about her sister? I know there's other shit going on, but it's just weird, isn't it? It's weird, and I'm just not sure what they're going for. For instance, look at this line from the stage show.
For the first time, I feel
In a show where dialogue like this is played for laughs and revels in campy moments, it works. At least a little bit. It's still pretty corny, I'm not gonna lie. This line sucks. You say Wicked enough. You don't gotta say it like that. But even worse than that moment is when this line is played completely unironically.
For the first time, I feel wicked.
Ew. Why? Lands a lot worse, right? And in my opinion, it's one of the moments where the screenplay is actually campy, but the film itself is not. Which once again, muddies everything. The script for Wicked for Good, interestingly, is still kind of written with this over-the-top and silly dialogue, but in the film, all of the lines are delivered with such fervor. And it just doesn't have to be that way. A director has the ability to change the intentions of a story, to add a nuance, to add camp. All of the problems that I listed in this section of the video don't come from the script, from the production design, or even the cinematography. They seem to come from a core problem with the direction of the film. John M. Chu had the ability to direct the performance to clarify the tone, or at the very least, lean all the way into one. He could have made those moments that are meant to be funny, and those serious. But instead, what we have here is a movie that feels like it doesn't understand its tone. Rather, it sits on the fence. Is it funny or is it serious? It can be both, but it rarely is because it never fully decides. And there's nothing wrong with movies that have a serious tone, or campy movies that have serious moments. But that's just not what Wicked is. Sure, there are serious moments, but to get those, you also have to reckon with the fact that it's a movie musical. Even if it's a more mature retelling of The Wizard of Oz, a fanfiction-esque dramatic restaging from a different perspective, it is still a musical film. It still has singing and dancing! It can still be fun, and it can still be camp, but it feels like Wicked for Good neglects that aspect of the original material. And I think that's in a large part due to the inconsistent direction of John Chu.
Remember, mommy, I'm off to get a commie, so send me a salami and try to smile somehow.
Step Up to the Streets is about finding your path on your own terms. It's also the directorial debut of a certain John M. Chu. It follows Andy, a character not in the original Step Up film, but is friends with Channing Tatum, the previous film's star, who makes an appearance in the first 15 minutes of this movie, only to never appear in the Step Up franchise again. Okay, I'm gonna just come right out and say it. I have not seen the original Step Up film, but I don't think that I had to. This movie is essentially a reboot with pretty much all new characters. The Step Up cinematic universe is a pretty wide-ranging canon. Every movie seems to have about 1 or 2 remaining cast members from the previous film. It just keeps evolving with new people every movie. It seems like most actors would rather quit acting forever than be in another Step Up movie. Anyway, Andy is a troubled kid. She loves to dance with her crew, the 410, in underground street dancing rings, but is always getting in trouble with her aunt.
Alice and I have been talking. You can't live here anymore.
You're sending me to Texas?
Like I haven't lost enough already?
With the looming threat of Texas over her, ooh, Andy enrolls in a private dance academy where her time that she used to spend rehearsing is now taken up by technical dance.
I'm assigning you to attend after-school sessions with me.
Well, I can't. I gotta be somewhere.
Consider this an opportunity.
She's put at odds with the very thing that she loves. Instead of going after school to dance with her friends in the 410, she has to dance with the principal after school, taking special lessons.
There, that's it.
Ow, pointing hurts.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
A boy at school, Chase, who also happens to be the brother of the principal, starts to develop a crush on Andy. But he knows that can't be right, because she comes from the streets.
I'm not trying to win her over.
Don't lead her on.
Yeah, that's right. You tell him, Moose. Oh, that's Moose, by the way. He's the funny friend who joins Andy's new street dancing team after she gets kicked out of the 410. You might notice that I've been describing these characters as very simple things, and that's not just because I'm a bad writer. No, it's meant to elucidate just how basic these characters really are. I know next to nothing about our main character, Andy, other than the fact that her parents are out of the picture and that she loves to dance. But really, I could have gotten that second one from the poster. I know almost nothing about Chase, her love interest, other than the fact that he's a little jealous of his brother, who's an accomplished dancer.
More like an all-star. He's only recently taken the jersey out of retirement, so be warned.
I know literally nothing about Moose, other than the fact that he's funny and he wears a little hat. I don't even know why he's called Moose. He just says that his friends call him Moose.
I'm Robert Alexander III. But you could call me Moose.
What's up, I'm Andy?
And you know it's bad when the film itself is introducing characters like this.
Oh, and that's Cyborg Sophie. She's an MSA machine and Colin's crowning achievement.
Man, if I got called a cyborg, I'd end my life then and there. Cyborg! In other works, this use of archetypal and basic characters might be something that weakens the film, but I don't think that's the case with Step Up to the Streets. The use of archetypal characters actually isn't so bad when the film allows time for them to interact with each other, and they help the story move along quicker to get to the real meat and potatoes of a dance film. The dancing, of which I'm happy to say there is plenty of in this movie. Dance scenes underground, dance scenes in the park, dance scenes in a backyard, dance scenes in the rain. Look at how wet they're getting. Dance is everywhere in this movie. It's like a character in the film, a much more important character than Moose. I'm just kidding, Moose. I love you. Your arc where you realize that you care about dancing with your crew more than you care about being a lighting technician is important to the plot.
You dance?
Damn right I dance. I can take you to where they are.
Okay, Goose, let's go.
My point is, Step Up to the Streets is about dance, so to a certain extent, it has to be campy. It's also a rebooted sequel to a horny dance movie from 2 years before, and because of those things, Chu didn't take any of it too seriously. And that allows the movie to just be what it is, a pretty good time. This isn't Sophie's Choice. This isn't Deliverance. It's Step Up to the Streets. There are dramatic moments, but at the end of the day, the movie is about an underground street dance team. The movie is called fucking Step Up to the Streets.
The Streets is about the best dance crew showing off what they got.
We don't stand a chance.
The entire time, the characters are talking about how if they want to be taken seriously as a dance team, they have to go to the streets.
Something they eventually called the streets.
The streets? The streets. What you know about the streets?
Any future involvement by our students in the streets?
The streets.
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 Chase wants to go to the streets so bad, he gets his shit rocked by one of the members of the 410.
I'll see you at the streets. At the streets? You in the streets now. I suggest you stay away from the streets.
And almost all of the characters exist to be punchlines. There's a tall, lanky guy with a lot of hair who tap dances. His name is Hair.
There's this guy we call Hair.
This guy runs computers at the school, and his name is Cable.
Most people know my boy Cable as the video yearbook editor.
This guy has a fucked up mouth, and I guess he can dance. His name is Smiles.
Finally, Smiles. Nicest guy you'll ever meet, the dopest dancer on the dance floor.
My point is, this is not a movie meant to be taken seriously.
They're at the streets.
The streets. I have to stop this.
Step Up to the Streets and Wicked actually share a lot of qualities. Stylistically, the films are super similar. They both are really flashy, highly edited, and musical numbers are shown from every possible angle. Both of these movies seem to believe that if a camera is still, I will not pay attention. They're both musical films where a character feels like she doesn't fit in anywhere she goes. They both have a lot of archetypal characters, and they both argue that those archetypal characters are more than who they seem to be. But what I feel makes these movies fundamentally different is that one of them allows itself to be silly. Step Up to the Streets is camp. I mean, you know a movie isn't taking itself too seriously when there's dialogue like this.
Yo, why does my crib smell like Funyuns, broccoli, and ball sweat?
Okay, bad example. Terrible example. But still, the film's tone is much more consistent, and the funny moments here and there allow for the dramatic moments, as contrived as they might be, to feel dramatic. Overall, the tone is much clearer, and it feels like Chu had a better grasp of what he was going for. Originally, Step Up to the Streets was a direct-to-DVD sequel, and he went at it hungry, hoping to make the greatest direct-to-DVD sequel he possibly could.
I'm going to make the best direct-to-DVD dance movie sequel ever. And so I rewrote the treatment of it and went in and pitched, and then they decided to make it into a feature film, and that became my first movie.
This is Chu's very first feature film after years of failing to get work off the ground. Right after his time at USC, John Chu was signed on to direct several projects, none of which really took off. So when he got Step Up to the Streets, he went at it knowing that he had to make his first film the best thing he possibly could given the circumstances.
Forget about the first movie, let's do our own movie really, and let's just put more dance than any dance movie. Let's put them in crazy spaces, let's have a dance floor with a trampoline built in. Right. Let's put them in a subway, it's fun, huh?
I mean, his first movie is called Step Up to the Streets. You can't take yourself too seriously.
And whether you're from a dance school and have been trained your whole life, or whether you're from the streets.
But what's bewildering here is that John Chu directed both Step Up to the Streets and Wicked, a movie that I'm claiming isn't camp. We know that Chu at one point directed a film that wasn't trying to take itself too seriously, and honestly, it worked because of it. So what happened? Well, to answer that question, I think we're gonna have to ask another one first, and that is, what the fuck does a director even do?
More, I'm still not satisfied.
So if you're not a big movie person, you might be a little unfamiliar with what a director actually does on a set. Everyone else's titles are so much clearer. The actor acts, the cinematographer moves the camera, the production designer designs the production, you get it. But what the fuck does a director do? Just wave their dick around and point? Unfortunately, sometimes, but that's not quite it. What I think best describes the work of an efficient director is that they provide the voice of a movie, the vision. If you were to have hundreds, even thousands of people all working on one project, and all of those people were also artists, you're then going to have hundreds or thousands of creative voices all interpreting the work in different ways. And that's really beautiful and should remain a part of the process in some way or another, but you also do have to have someone telling all of those people generally what they should be going for. Otherwise, a movie can be incredibly unfocused and say too many things not nearly as efficiently. Books usually have such strong voices because one person writes them. Even if there are editors, it's all coming from one source. And movies can have something akin to that as well, if they have a determined enough director. This is a pretty nuanced conversation, but the director does have to have intention and reasons for why they are making a movie, which have to come through. And this shouldn't take away from everyone else's communal effort in making the film. It takes a village and all, but the director does have to decide which ideas are worth listening to and which ones aren't. Essentially, the director should curate the artistic ideas around them and choose the best ones to make the movie that they want to make. There still has to be collaboration, tons of it, but it should be with the director. And that way, a movie can have a very strong creative vision that comes from the director's creative voice. For example, every Martin Scorsese movie feels like it, right? Goodfellas and The Wolf of Wall Street definitely have a similar voice behind them. This is on the verge of me talking about auteur theory and stuff though, which would make this the most insufferable video of all time, and I worry it would distract from my real point here. So, how does this all relate to Wicked? In any way? Well, in addition to having the voice of a movie, the director also has to direct the movie. Talk to the actors and guide their performances, communicate with the crew and tell them, even in broad strokes, what to do, check in on them, and make sure that they are still making the movie that the director wants to make. They have to be a guiding light of sorts, the most passionate person on set, and get people genuinely excited to make their movie. It's why you see Quentin Tarantino making his crew do this bullshit at 4 in the morning.
Let's do it one more time. Why? Because we love making
And it's why so many directors stick with the same cast and crew for movie after movie after movie. The people working with them genuinely care to work with them because the director has a strong enough voice and makes them excited about the work. And this aspect of directing, I really have to give Chu an extreme amount of kudos for. The cast and crew all seem to adore this guy, and he's obviously really passionate about making movies in the most collaborative way possible.
The best part of it all is that we did it together, that we were all we weren't scared coming in, but we knew the stakes coming in. And we knew the only people who could save it was ourselves. And we trusted each other and linked arms and trusted that we would find it together.
And that is incredibly admirable and definitely a huge contributor to his success. Turns out people actually have to like you to make movies, especially if you want to thrive in an industry as rigid as film. As rigid as it is, it's still run by people, and people don't like it when you suck all the time. And that overall makes John Chu a pretty cool guy, but when it comes down to it, there's something missing with Wicked, and I think it has to do with John Chu's creative voice. It's hard to talk about a director like John Chu's creative voice because one has to reckon with the fact that a director who doesn't write their own material still has one. You see, Chu hasn't written any of his feature films, and it makes this whole conversation a little more difficult. Because it's easy to see and analyze the types of films that writer-directors make. Paul Thomas Anderson, the Safdies, Yorgos Lanthimos, Lynn Ramsey, all have stories that embellish the same themes, similar motifs, and of course, their directorial styles. You see a depressed-ass little kid, and you know that shit's a Lynn Ramsey film. Is it really freaky, and your palms are sweating a little bit? That's probably a Safdie Brothers movie. Is it racist? Get out of here, Quentin. But when a director isn't a writer, they have to rely on the strengths of their direction alone to make their film unique to them. Steven Soderbergh, Steven Spielberg, Stephen Frears? Sure. They rarely write their own films, yet through movement of the camera, aesthetic choices, music, and of course, the way they direct a performance, they're able to still have an incredibly strong creative voice. You watch a movie directed by any of those guys, and you still know it's their movie, despite them not having written it. Quick montages and big camera zooms set Soderbergh apart, and Spielberg's subject matter, beautiful scores, and sweeping camera moves define his style. Which begs the question, what is John Chu's voice? Well, as I sort of mentioned in the intro of this video, Chu is something of a maximalist. He likes to use a lot of shots and highly edited sequences and spectacle to convey his ideas. This is incredibly clear in both Wicked films and Step Up to the Streets, as well as his other work. Step Up 3D, the sequel to Step Up to the Streets, is a movie with barely any substance, but a whole lot of flashing colors, big dance sequences, and of course, pointless 3D. Both of Chu's Justin Bieber documentaries are highly edited and focused on the gigantic concerts that Bieber would put on in his early career. His adaptation of In the Heights has big dance numbers and magical set pieces, and Now You See Me Too, he only did the second one, is about magicians pranking these evil guys by setting up an elaborate magic trick to make them think that they're on a plane, but they're not. They're actually in the middle of the Thames? Is that what it's called? We down here call it the Thames. And it doesn't get more maximalist than that, does it, folks? John M. Chu adores spectacle, and it's a big part of his creative voice as a director. In his book, he details how much editing meant to him when he was a kid. It was the first thing about film that he fell in love with, and you can really tell just how much he loves to cut different images together to tell a story. Now, I don't have a problem with maximalism. A lot of my favorite directors are maximalists, and I even toy with it a lot in my own work. But I think a lot of the time, Chu's love of the grand and spectacular can distract from the substance of the material that he directs. Earlier in his career, he wasn't able to utilize every single aspect that can make a movie grand. His work was lower budgeted, silly popcorn movies meant to make big returns in the box office, with massive studios behind them, like Walt Disney's Buena Vista Pictures, Paramount, or fucking Justin Bieber. John Chu was a bit of a maximalist, sure, but he rarely took big creative swings in his films, either because he was unable to, or that just wasn't the type of film he was aiming to make. So Chu, more often than not, tended to play it on the safer side, with spectacle coming more from quick-paced editing and special effects rather than massive set pieces or longer, bigger sequences. This, to answer the question I posed earlier, is also why Step Up to the Streets works. It's not doing too much to be the biggest possible spectacle it can be. It's a relatively low-budgeted film that had to get by on its charm. And Chu was able to pull charm out of it by letting the film be over the top with its performances, the weird characters, and of course, the dance. But with Wicked, Chu was given the freedom to pretty much do whatever he wanted with a much bigger budget, which can be a good thing, but I think that it meant that his maximalist efforts became less intentional. For example, songs in Wicked that don't need flashy effects to get the point across smother you with constantly moving cameras and spectacle. Look at The Girl in the Bubble, a song specifically created for Glinda to sing alone in the second film. The number is shot with relentless movement, going in and out of mirrors to feign a singular oneer. Holy shit, grab onto something. Jesus. Why would they present this song in such an extravagant way? It's a ballad, a melancholic song during the all is lost moment of your film, meant to let us in on the character's emotions. Fucking slow down. It's cool, I guess. I enjoyed seeing how they did it in the behind the scenes bonus feature. But other than it being cool, why's it gotta be like this? Is there a reason? I don't see one. This overbearing technique appears once again in the film's penultimate number, For Good. This is one of the most iconic songs from the original musical. If you ever did theater for any point in your life in this century, you've probably heard this song at least 15 times by people who can't sing. So at the very least, it's nice to know that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande know what they're doing. And Chu seems to understand the importance of this song, both culturally and thematically to the story of Wicked. I mean, he named the second film after this song, after all. Come on. Now, if you're unfamiliar with For Good, it's a number in which Elphaba and Glinda confess how much they mean to each other, long after they've parted ways and hurt each other more than they can know. In the movie, I'm not sure how much they've hurt each other. Again, I don't think Elphaba gives a fuck that Glinda killed her sister, but I digress. Despite it all, at the end of the show, the two meet and reconcile for one moment of closure before they likely will never see each other again. It's a still song with little to no blocking in the original stage show, because it frankly doesn't need it. That's not what the song is about. It's about these two people who have greatly affected each other, putting it all aside to express how important they've been to each other's lives. But when we reach this point in the film adaptation, this moment is met with much less quietude. Though the first part of this number is edited just like a basic shot-reverse shot dialogue scene, the crux of the song has the camera swirling around them, losing all chill. And why couldn't they just let the moment be? Cynthia and Ariana's performances here aren't bad, but the film rarely lets me sit with them, and it leaves me forgetting that the whole film is supposedly about their relationship. Especially in this moment, when I'm trying not to grab a barf bag. But that's the thing with maximalism. When used in an unearned moment, tender and emotional beats get lost in the woodwork. Chu's love for the spectacle seems to conflict here with his love of storytelling, and where I think it's the most telling are in his Park and Bark numbers. Park and Bark is a theater term in reference to a song where a character just stands still on stage and sings a song. They park and they bark. It's pretty self-explanatory, really. Park and Bark songs include Being Alive from Company, One Song Glory from Rent, or There Are Worse Things I Could Do from Grease. It's worth noting that Park and Bark songs aren't just like that for the sake of the director being too lazy. There's usually an intention behind it. In songs like these, the content of what the characters are singing is of the utmost importance, as well as the performance and emotional beats from the character. I think often you see a director's biggest insecurities show up when a Park and Bark number arrives in a movie musical. In the Dear Evan Hansen movie, you can tell that they weren't quite sure how to make these melodramatic and schmaltzy numbers work on the big screen, so they just sort of followed Evan around and let Ben Platt's wrinkly little eyes do all the storytelling. In the movie version of Into the Woods, they straight up cut No More, the song that completes the Baker's arc and makes the show thematically make sense. And Memory, in 2019's adaptation of Cats, just holds on Jennifer Hudson's grotesque little cat face, knowing that that woman's performance was the only thing of note in that film, but still pooping all over her face with gross CGI fur. So Park and Bark numbers, historically, are a pretty hard thing to direct, but I also think that occasionally they can lead to pure innovation. Having to sit down and breathe with the characters is a really interesting opportunity, and it forces directors to think outside of the box when directing them. Once is one of my favorite examples, a low-budget movie musical with real musicians where we see our unnamed protagonist within the first 5 minutes pour his heart out on the street through song. To nobody. His songs are good, amazing even, but he's trapped in this corner in Dublin. The camera slowly moves in on him from afar, as if we are a bystander seeing him from across the street, as the camera slowly lets us into his world. La La Land has another great example, surprisingly similar to Cats, but this one actually earned Emma Stone an Oscar nomination instead of the public disgrace that Cats did. Sorry, Jennifer. In Mia's final song, in audition for a big movie role, the camera starts still, something that happens rarely in this film. For a moment, we're alone with Mia, as once again the camera begins to slowly move in on her face as she opens up throughout the song, telling a touching story about her grandmother. The camera only retreats as the song finishes, ejecting us from Mia's inner story and back into the film's external world. You see, Park and Bark numbers can run the risk of boring the audience, feeling like they're slowing the story down, but they also have the rare opportunity to make characters click. Moments of quiet and singularity can deepen our understandings of the themes of a film and bring us closer to the characters. So you can see why I'm a little upset when emotional numbers in Wicked are done in such a needlessly flaunty way. And this isn't a problem just with the second film. This exists in the first one as well. The first Wicked film notably has a Park and Bark number 2, the emotional ballad, I'm Not That Girl. It's a fine number, meant to let us in on Elphaba's feelings for Fiyero and her conflicting feelings of inadequacy.
I'm not that girl.
I like this number decently enough, though I do feel like it's an example of John Chu trying really hard not to go over the top. You see, up until this moment, every number in Wicked is pretty big. A big dance number in a library, a big dance number throughout the school, Elphaba running around singing about how much she loves the wizard. Even a small number sung by Dr. Dillamond, a goat, is an extravagant shadow puppet sequence, and nothing is scaled back. But I'm Not That Girl should be different, right? A slower glimpse into the mind of Elphaba, at least that's what it is in the original show. Well, it sort of is, but it doesn't really commit to that. The whole number shows Elphaba singing as she walks through the forest back to school, transporting as she sings in different locations, and it feels entirely unmotivated. Here, it feels like Chu's insecurity as a director shines through, as the camera once again refuses to lie still. Every new shot, we start at a medium, and then slowly go into a close-up. And then back to a medium again. Sure, this is getting into the weeds of camera psychology, but these sorts of things matter to how a movie makes you feel. Because of this, the number doesn't feel like we're getting closer to Elphaba. It makes us feel like we get closer for a second, and then get immediately pulled away. And then we just try to get closer again. As an audience member, you feel like a dog on one of those retractable leashes trying to go up to smell something interesting, but you keep being yanked back by your owner, who yells at you for trying to eat shit. It feels like the camera is moving to keep me from getting distracted, from fidgeting in my seat. When the number itself isn't boring, it's just not directed in any interesting way. A moment where we really could be let in on Elphaba's character feels as distant as ever. And that's a bummer. There are similar moments in Chu's previous film, and the movie that likely got him this job, In the Heights. This is a film full of spectacle and larger-than-life moments, and I think the movie works in a large part thanks to them. 96,000 blasts us from character to character, culminating in a large pool dance number. Blackout and the opening number, In the Heights, do something similar, both sweeping musical numbers with constant movement. But the solo songs, the Park and Bark numbers, of which there are many, are rarely moments of reprieve from this stylized and maximalist movie. Breathe is a number where we want to be let in on how the character Nina is feeling. After all, it's all she sings about.
Old forgotten boleros. I think of the days when the city was mine.
But the movie just starts cutting to flashbacks as she sings the most crucial and emotional moments of the song, leading me to a deeper understanding of what's happening in the film, but not exactly how she's feeling. Which, you know, is pretty important. Chu's maximalist efforts and emotional songs don't always hurt. Pacienza y Fe from In the Heights is a good example of that, a number so highly planned and intricate that I simply can't hate on it. But more often than not, moments where fast pacing is relinquished in the original In the Heights are made fast and stimulating in the film adaptation. In this interlude, sung by the character Vanessa, where she sings about her life not going the way she wants it to in a slow, short, melancholic song, Chu depicts her sprinting for her life, running away from her neighborhood as sheets fall from the sky. This moment is really cool, but when everything else in the film is also a spectacle, it makes this feel almost unceremonious. Yet again, the tone of Chu's film is disrupted, this time not by being so self-serious, but by not giving the audience a moment to breathe. There's a similar number to this in Wicked for Good, called No Good Deed. In it, Elphaba is at her lowest. We see her casting spells and entering the evil castle she resides in at the climax of The Wizard of Oz. This number is vital, a moment where you really want to see Elphaba make the decision to turn into the Wicked Witch of the West, but instead, we just start cutting back to moments we've already seen. I understand why Chu did this, to remind us of Elphaba's disillusionment with her life and everything she knows to be true, but when it's done in such a way, it loses all subtlety. It just flashes images at you that you may or may not remember, instead of building to this moment, building to something where we don't have to see the things we've already seen, we just need to see Elphaba turn into the witch. But the way that it's shot, with so much going on, constant wind blowing everywhere, monkeys in the background, and I get that that's the point, but it's lessening the emotion beneath it. The film isn't confident in itself. It's showing us flashbacks, reminding us of things, better things, from the first movie. It's doing the Stranger Things finale technique. That's the worst part of the Stranger. I don't want to see them as kids. What's lost in all of this ruckus is a deeper understanding of her character. Arrivo is belting her heart out, but we're distracted. At least, I am. Chu's love of spectacle is where his voice shines the brightest, and at times I think it's his greatest strength, but at other times, it just confuses what he's trying to say. When you're bombarded by gigantic, expensive sequences over and over again, or even just constant moves of the camera for the sake of it moving, first of all, it feels a lot less exciting. Second of all, when does the audience know when to pay attention? How do they know what matters? John Chu has a lot of great ideas, trust me, I think he has tons of them. But what's missing is an understanding of when and where to place them so that he properly conveys the emotions he wants to. He has a creative voice, don't get me wrong, but the bigger problem is how he applies it. And that's what a director with a strong creative voice does. Not only do they show scenes in the most interesting and creative way, but they understand their story better than anybody so that those decisions make sense. But it's really not that simple. Wicked for Good does have a few scenes that I think take a moment to slow down and help the audience grasp what's going on with the characters. For instance, when Glinda has to reckon with the fact that she just lost Fiyero to Elphaba, a singular shot holds on to her for an entire scene as she deals with this grief and acts on it. That's a really cool way to show a moment like this, and a wonderful performance from Ariana Grande. There's also this moment where Elphaba and Glinda reconnect for the first time since the previous film, a moment that does show how the relationships of the characters have changed. When they hug, Elphaba is resistant, different from what it was like back when they were at Shiz. Slower and subtler moments, though short and few and far between, exist in Wicked for Good. While I still think Chu has a lot of room to grow in this department, I don't think this is a problem of Chu not knowing how to handle a moment like this. I think it's also indicative of the film's script not allowing for enough of them. So maybe it's not just Chu. The plot thickens. Ooh!
First we got the bomb, and that was good, cause we love peace and motherhood. Then Russia got the bomb, but that's okay, cause the balance of power's maintained that way. Who's next?
Gem and the Holograms is about spectacle. It's a movie that John M. Chu wanted to direct for a really long time. He pitched it as far back as the 2000s. And if you're anywhere around my age, you probably have no idea what Gem and the Holograms originally was, and that's okay. In fact, it seems that if you don't know anything about this obscure cartoon from the 80s, you'll probably end up liking John Chu's movie based on it more. The film begins with a girl named Jerica telling us everything there is to know about her life.
I'm here to confess to you, my closest friend, that internet.
This is something of a staple of Choose Direction, the use of mixed media and different cameras to tell a story. And I actually think this is cool and a little ahead of its time. And here, it tells us that Jerrica's dad, an engineer, died while making his life's project, a robot named Synergy.
Even though his philosophy was to always finish what you've started, he passed away before he got to complete this one.
We then cut to the present, where Jerrica and her 3 sisters, all being raised by their aunt, are in a band. They are not very good, but I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to be the point or not at this part of the movie. Anyway, Jerrica is something of a songwriter, and after pressure from her younger sister, Kimber, God, these names are way too fanfiction for me, I'm sorry. She makes a YouTube video where she LARPs as David Bowie and sings a song called Alone Together, and calls herself Gem.
Hi. I'm Gem. Maybe
Something that irks me about this movie is that this video goes insanely viral the next day after Kimber secretly uploads it. You have your cliche moments where the characters remark about the hits that they've gotten on their video.
Look, every time I refresh it, it just keeps going up.
And I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for Gem and the Holograms 2015. I'm not just some asshole. But what bothers me is that this movie came out at a time where YouTube just didn't function like this anymore. Perhaps in the late aughts, videos like this went viral, but not in 2015, the year which this film finds itself taking place in. YouTube had become a different platform by 2015, prioritizing watch time instead of shorter videos like it used to. And this might seem like a minimal critique, and it certainly is, but it represents the cultural context that this movie finds itself in. This is a movie cursed from the start, a film that had already aged poorly by the time it came out, and one that can only get less grounded in reality from here.
No, you're not alone. We can be alone.
The next morning, Jerrica finds out just how famous she's become, that she's trending, ooh, and she's soon approached by a record executive named Erica Raymond.
Erica Raymond, Starlight Enterprises.
And Erica takes the girls away after Jerrica convinces her, God, Erica and Jerrica? That's the names of the I can't do it. Erica takes the girls away after Jerrica convinces her over email that her sisters have to come with her.
There's a guy playing drums at the end of that clip. For some reason, there's just YouTube videos in this movie. I don't really mention it in the script for some reason, but this movie has so many YouTube videos just in it. I'll show another example later, but it's the whole movie. The whole movie just has YouTube. It's literally, it drives me insane. Why are there YouTube videos? The whole movie. John Chu asked for this. He literally asked for people to send them videos.
Post a video and tell us a bit about yourself. Make it 2 minutes, no more. Give us a little glimpse of why you're special. And remember to tag it, Gem the movie, so we can find it.
Oh my God. Why do I do this to myself? What am I doing? Anyway, I hope you guys like the video.
Before she leaves, however, Jerrica decides to take Synergy, her dad's unfinished robot, with her. And later, in their hotel room, when there's a glow, who could it be?
Synergy?
Synergy has come to life to send her and her sisters on a scavenger hunt. Yeah, the main plot of this movie is about a scavenger hunt, and just in time for the big geocaching boom of 2015. It's gonna go mainstream one of these days, guys. I swear. The robot sends them to the Santa Monica Pier, where they end up having to move a giant pole. And don't worry, Synergy doesn't give them a clear understanding of why they have to do this. They just sort of figure out that that's how to crack the code. Why would you think to move the pole?
Maybe it could be moved to make the right note?
I'm just impressed that you knew to do that. They're caught by this guy character whose name I don't care to look up. Let's just call him Ronnie. Ronnie is an intern, but also Erica Raymond's son, and he also has a crush on Jerrica. He's not super important to the film except to give it a love interest, which is a common theme in this movie. Characters are rarely in this film to move it along or to be important to the story in any meaningful way, but they exist just to add more things. More reasons for Jerrica's life to go awry, more ways in which this movie can extend its runtime. This leads to Jerrica's struggles to be so widespread and the movie to be about so many things that it turns out to be about nothing. Conflict arises from a number of places. There's her sisters, which she eventually has to leave behind to become a solo artist to save her aunt from having to be evicted from her house.
So you wouldn't just be losing the house, you would lose everything that we built together.
Betrayal. So, is the movie about that? About prioritizing your family's history over your family now? About deciding between one selfish decision and another? Well, no, because it's also about her trying to reconnect with her dad, who is a hologram now.
You have so much ahead of you, Jerrica. And where you go now is up to you.
And it's also about her falling in love with Robbie or whatever. The entire movie just feels like it's waiting for something to happen, for something more important to arise, for a greater meaning about why I should care to show itself. Instead, you just sort of see Jem's clunky rise to the top, and you're constantly reminded that #Jem is trending.
And one other one.
Which
Jem.
No, that's what I'm talking about. Right now, it's already trending on Twitter right now. #Jem.
Did you love it?
I was so into the point that I was making here that I neglected to mention, like, did they think we would think that Jimmy Fallon said that #Jem is trending? Like, did they think we'd think that was real? Very absurd. It's just it's a very absurd film.
But we never see Jerrica face any true hardship. Nothing that lasts more than 10 minutes anyway. Her sisters forgive her pretty quickly. The guy she likes, what did I call him? I should just look up his name. It's Rio. His name is Rio. Anyway, Rio forgives her for hurting his feelings or something, and Erica Raymond, the corrupt woman she is, gets taken away. Everything goes right for Jerrica in the long run, which is fine for a movie like Jem and the Holograms, but it makes it hard to trace what changed from the beginning of the film to the end. The movie has so many different conflicts, so many different themes, that it ends up losing track of its main character in the process. What is Jerrica's arc? She's famous now, I guess? She learned how to sing in front of a big crowd? Well, she learned how to do that a half hour into the movie. So, keep digging. What was the movie even about? Don't tell me I had to sit through a song called Youngblood with a straight face for no reason. The problem with Jem and the Holograms is that it's unfocused in almost every way. Unfocused in its characters, unfocused in its themes, unfocused in its pacing. This movie drags. This supposed musical only has like 3 songs, and they all sound like this.
Kohl's is having a sale.
The movie is so unfocused that there are scenes entirely scored by YouTube videos, and they just keep cutting back to them. Why? That's so annoying. Stop, please, stop.
What is that?
It's my dad's will.
Why did they do this? When a movie is this distracted, goes down so many different paths halfway, none of it feels worthwhile. A movie can be about a bunch of different events, a bunch of different things can happen in a movie. That's not my problem here. My problem is that these things don't feel like they're connected by a singular theme. The film is about neglecting your family for fame, but it's also about finding your family by doing a scavenger hunt with a robot.
Use all you've learned to be the best version of yourself you can be.
Jerrica's character is thrust into fame, a position that she doesn't seem to want very badly.
You. Did you do this, Kimber? What the hell? You know how I feel about these things.
And then it's also about her falling in love with somebody. What does that have to do with anything? When you expect a film to be about one thing, and then it's about everything, the film becomes hollow, and it feels like the filmmakers lied about what the film was. And if you feel like you were lied to about what this movie was really about, imagine being a fan of Jem and the Holograms. This movie is supposedly nothing like the show it's based on. The original show is about a girl named Jerrica who can transform into a pop star named Jem at any time due to her robot synergy. And this, if you couldn't tell, is not this movie at all. Gone are the outer space and sci-fi aesthetics. Instead, we get a movie about internet fame and stomp clap hey. What's what's worse is that Chu and the other producers of Jem and the Holograms made a video asking fans to send videos of themselves talking about how much they love the original Jem.
Hey everyone, this is John M. Chu, the director of G.I. Joe Retaliation. Post a video through Tumblr, YouTube, and tell us what you love about Jem. We really want to know. You could even post pictures of you dressed up with her. Whatever it is, we want to see and hear your passion for the original Jem.
Which isn't a bad thing at face value, but then they took those videos and put them in the movie as if they were talking about this Jem.
This is my real hair, and I love Jem. She stands out in a very humble way.
We love you, Jem!
Jem inspired me.
I just want to say thank you for that.
And people were pissed, because that's not the same Jem they're talking about. This Jem sucks. This is a completely different Jem. Fuck this Jem. So yeah, that's lame, and I don't even really have to explain why. I can only imagine how annoyed I'd be if someone asked me to film a video of me talking about how much I love the movie Oldboy, and then they put it in the movie Oldboy. Not that one. By doing this and changing so much, Jem and the Holograms left behind the original fans of the source material, the built-in fan base that really was all Jem and the Holograms had going for it. Because of this, mixed with poor marketing for the film, even worse reviews, and the fact that this era of 2010's teen-centric cinema was way past its prime, Jem and the Holograms was a box office stinker. At one point, it was reported to be the biggest box office flop of its scale ever. And what's even worse is this was the first time that this had happened to John Chu. Up until this point, all of his films did financially very well, even if they were critically panned. But this was the first time the two things intersected that the critics and the fans agreed.
The #1 trending topic on Twitter globally is
not
#Jem.
So John really missed the mark with that one. Why do I care? What does that have to do with anything? Well, what's interesting to me about this movie is that despite its many flaws, directorially, I feel it is distinctly Chu. It's flashy, it's ridiculous, it's at times incredibly self-serious, and something I have to say to Chu's credit is that the film's flop didn't seem to get him down, at least in the public eye. The very next day, after the film bombed at the box office, he gave a keynote at the Film Independent Forum, in which he was able to address the film's failure and how he felt about it in a really optimistic way.
So, this is a bit awkward. Only because I'm supposed to be here this morning talking about how great it is to be in the movie business. It's so awesome. But currently, I don't know if you've looked at box office numbers. This morning, specifically, it hasn't been the greatest. But I do have to tell you that from the bottom of my heart and wounded soul, that I am so lucky. We all are, because we have the best job in the world. We get to tell stories, and we get paid for it, or sometimes not, but we get to tell stories. No one, not one single thing on this planet, can ever stop us from telling our stories. And so here I am to tell another story.
But if we were to ask the question that I've seen asked time and time again on the internet, why did John Chu get to direct Wicked? This is the answer. John Chu's resilience, grace under pressure, and kind attitude towards his work and others makes him such a valuable and rare creative voice. Sure, he isn't the greatest director in the world. His films aren't perfect, but you can always tell that he cares, and he's proud of his work. Jem and the Holograms is not an offensive movie, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it is, clutch my pearls, and shout about how offensive this movie is to the source material, and how it doesn't match my modern-day sensibilities. No, that would make for a really boring and pointless YouTube video. The argument I'd like to make instead is a little more complex. John Chu has a lot of room to grow as a director. I am positive of that fact. But I'm not quite sure that he's done growing. Having read his book and watched several videos of him, I find that he's a rather introspective guy, and while I think that valid criticism against him is fair, it's also true that he seems to be someone truly focused on himself, and in a good way. He writes a line in his memoir that I've thought about quite a bit while writing this video, and I'll let him read it to you because I think it's pretty poignant.
I drew constantly. I dream up otherworldly creatures, then sketch them into existence. I wasn't the best artist in my class, but nobody matched my joy.
And I think that sums up Chu's character pretty well, and it makes him, at least in this regard, a pretty good director. Even if the movies are shit, I'd rather have someone make an earnestly bad movie rather than a soulless one. Some of my favorite directors ever have some stinkers below their belt, but they bounced back because they love making films, and that's what matters to them. And I can't particularly say that a movie like Jem and the Holograms is soulless. What it's definitely missing, however, is something more. It's missing focus, something to drive the story and make me care. It's missing a reason for the story to be told. Chu's biggest strength might be moving forward and resilience, but his greatest weakness is his inability to stop moving forward to the next thing, to slow down and let the camera be still for one moment, to stop and decide what the movie is about. This man is, as of writing this video, currently signed on to direct 5 movies. One about Hot Wheels, one about Britney Spears, one based on the game Split Fiction, one based on the Dr. Seuss book Oh, the Places You'll Go, and one based on Andrew Lloyd Webber's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And those sound like cool movies, dude, but can you just pick one? Because of his inability to slow down, his films at times can feel relentless, much like Jem in the Holograms, constantly giving us new ideas, crazy visuals, different themes, but without anything behind the curtain.
There once lived a man named Oedipus Rex. You may have heard about his odd complex. His name appears in Freud's index because he loved his mother.
So the worst part to me about Wicked for Good is kind of how long it is. I know, look at me lampooning a movie's runtime in 2026. Who am I, Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Jesus. Is my brain so used to 30-second long videos of some dude in his car reviewing the new Taco Bell menu items that I can't sit my ass down in a theater and just watch a movie that's barely over 2 hours long? How stupid is this guy? Don't worry, I thought the same thing. But I think the weight of Wicked's runtime doesn't actually really come down to how long the movie actually is, rather how the film spends its time. But to understand all that, let's once again look at the stage show Wicked. Wicked is a show that works a lot better if you've low-key forgotten what happens in The Wizard of Oz. This isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. I could give a shit about what's canon or not, but it's always bothered me that the musical that supposedly shows a different perspective of the events that happen in the 1939 movie The Wizard of Oz has this many inconsistencies. You could say that they're just different properties, that the musical is lightly inspired by the movie, but that's not how the musical treats this. The entire second act is dedicated to tying it in to The Wizard of Oz. They turn like half of the characters into the characters from the movie. But if you really try to connect the two, it just doesn't work. For example, why does the Tin Man absolutely despise the Wicked Witch in Wicked?
It's due to her I'm made of tin, her spell made this occur. So for once I'm glad I'm heartless, I'll be heartless killing her.
I get it, she turned him into the Tin Man. I'd be pissed too, but it's just not supported by the text of the original film, and why wouldn't he just tell Dorothy, look at me, she did this bullshit to me. She did this. But no, in the movie, he spends most of the time just singing some whimsical ass songs.
And the boy who shoots the arrows, if I only had a heart.
But he definitely knows it's the case in Wicked, and it's a little weird.
I'll be heartless killing her.
And like, why wouldn't he recognize the lion in The Wizard of Oz when they run into each other? Same with Fiyero, who in Act 2 of Wicked turns into the Scarecrow.
You're so beautiful.
You don't have to lie to me.
It's not lying. It's looking at things another way.
If that's Fiyero, why does the witch in The Wizard of Oz do this?
How about a little fire, Scarecrow?
She just tried to fucking slime her boyfriend. What the fuck? Listen, these are silly cinema sins ass complaints. I get it. And if those were the only arguments I made in this video, I would beg you to unsubscribe. But these inconsistencies, to me, culminate in a pretty disappointing feeling when you actually try to compare Wicked to The Wizard of Oz. It's not like the musical is trying to distance itself from the original film. The aesthetics are direct homages to it. So much of the stage musical Wicked's success comes from the fact that it is based on a movie that everybody and their grandmother has seen, which makes it, in my opinion, pretty disappointing when you go home after watching the musical Wicked just to watch The Wizard of Oz and see Elphaba trying to murder her boyfriend with magical red fire. It's disappointing, okay? It's disappointing. I think I'm allowed to say on the internet, it's disappointing without really having to explain myself there. It's not the best critique, but it bummed me out. It makes me wish that they had explained it, or that they showed how Fiyero and Elphaba planned this whole escape route, and how it was contingent on the fact that they had to fake murder attempt the Scarecrow right in front of a little girl. Wouldn't that make for a more interesting story? It's fun to explain things. You don't have to, but why not? But no, the show just doesn't allow itself to have that intricate of a story. The second act of Wicked, instead, is dedicated to wrapping shit up. It's all resolution to stuff that happened in the first act. Sure, there are some occasional nods and tie-ins to the original Wizard of Oz, but it's more focused on where Elphaba ends up and doing yet another reveal that the wizard, still evil.
I am nothing like you, and I never will be, and I will fight you till the day I die!
And that is a pretty lame way to do a second act of a Broadway musical. In my opinion, the best musicals use their second act to further heighten the stakes of the story. In Into the Woods, a giant starts stomping around and hunting one of the protagonists. In Little Shop of Horrors, Seymour has to keep killing more and more important people in his life. Shit kind of has to go down in the second act of a musical to keep the audience from fidgeting in their seats. Musicals are usually 3 hours long. They don't want you getting bored. They don't want you going into the bathroom pretending to poop, but actually you're just doing the Wordle. No, the second act should still matter to the show. It should still continue the story. But the second act of Wicked honestly has no new stakes. We already know the ending. We know Elphaba isn't gonna make it out of the hood because we remember that from the movie. There's very little new information provided that makes the story worth seeing played out. It's all falling action. What makes this slightly less egregious is that the second act of Wicked is only about an hour long. You're in and out of there. This is also less of a problem when you consider how fucking great the first act of Wicked is. I need to stress this more. The first act of Wicked fucking rocks. I think it's likely the biggest contributor as to why the first film is so damn good. It's got all the best songs. It's got Dancing Through Life. It's got What Is This Feeling, Defying Gravity, Popular, all of the songs you know Wicked for. It has the best moments, and it ends with actual payoff. You get to see Elphaba start to fly around on a broom. It doesn't get much witchier than that. My point is, it's great, and seeing it right before the second act of Wicked definitely softens the blow. What would be extremely egregious, however, is if the second act of Wicked was 2 hours and 18 minutes long, and you didn't even get to see Dancing Through Life before it. Wicked for Good is an adaptation of just the second act of Wicked, which was something the studio was on the fence to do, but John Chu made it happen. Composer Stephen Schwartz even seconded this idea, saying that the number Defying Gravity was so damn good, you just had to close a curtain after it. And if that's the case, if you are going to take the second act of Wicked and turn it into a 2-hour movie, double the length of the actual act, why not explain all of the shit that I said earlier? You have the time. I know you do, because the movie feels so goddamn long. But of course, they didn't change any of those things that I mentioned. The Tin Man, still evil. But it's really not just those, actually criticisms that I made. No. Instead of adding any intrigue, any reason to care, anything furthering the stakes of the original Wicked, or the first film, the second film just sort of adds more. More songs, more scenes, more fancy special effects sequences. But none of these changes provide any new ideas or intricacy to the film, which makes it feel like 2 hours of wasted time and potential. Please don't comment that's what this video feels like. Please don't comment that's what this video... So, what kind of stuff is different in Wicked for Good compared to the original musical? How did they make that thing an hour longer? They had to do it some way. I know it. Well, there are 2 new songs. That's fun. I like new songs. Do these songs serve to heighten the stakes of the story or maybe flesh out these characters a little more? Well, let's see. There's Elphaba's There's No Place Like Home, a song she sings to the animals to convince them not to leave Oz.
Just tell yourself There's no place like home.
So this song doesn't do much to move the plot forward or make the movie any more interesting. It's also just bad. It's not a great song. It's not a strong one.
There's no place like home.
But maybe it fleshes out her character a little more, gives us a little insight into her. In Wicked Part 1, Elphaba has a song that's kind of similar, The Wizard and I, a triumphant and hopeful number in which we begin to understand how her naivety and lust for a better, less green life will impact her decisions throughout the film. This is a really great song, and probably one of my favorites from the first movie. But There's No Place Like Home simply doesn't achieve the same things as The Wizard and I, despite being placed at a similar point in the story. For one, she still has a similar naivety from The Wizard and I, this idea that things are going to change for the better, and that Oz is a great place to live. I understand she's expressing that she's going to make this change, and that later on, she does make Oz a better place to live, but I just don't understand her motivation at this point in the story to sing such a Rachel Platten fight song-esque type of number. Because based on all of her actions in this film and kind of the first one, I'm not really sure that Elphaba does like Oz, or at the very least feels at home there. Yes, she wants to make Oz a better place, but there's no denying that it's a pretty shitty country right now. I get that this is a relevant song to our country right now. That's a pretty horrible thing. But if that's the case, I don't really like this song even more. The animals wanting to jump ship instead of being at risk of being caged up and enslaved seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do, even if leaving means uncertainty. And she doesn't really have any compelling arguments here. She just kind of says, like, I know this place is made of dirt and shit, but doesn't it feel nice? America!
Land made of dirt and rock and loam.
And if it were to explore this idea any deeper, perhaps I would like this song and find it meaningful to the story of Wicked. But it just doesn't. It just kind of hits the same note over and over again. And I'm not even sure that Elphaba believes the idea that there's no place like home. It's worth noting that There's No Place Like Home is a pretty famous line from the original Wizard of Oz.
Oh, Annie M., there's no place like home.
And I think it's interesting to have a character fight back against that idea in this movie, but that's just not what this song is. It's weirdly unapologetic patriotism, and it's boring, and it's kind of shit.
More than just a place.
I literally cannot remember the tune of this song, and I've heard it several times at this point. It's just forgettable, and does the same amount for the story as when Elphaba looks at her bulletin board that has Save the Animals written on it. And that's the problem with Wicked for Good. All of the songs feel so fluffy. Even the ones from the original musical. This is a problem that transfers over from Broadway. The song As Long As You're Mine is pretty terrible in both the movie and the musical, but the movie doesn't do anything to make it more interesting. In fact, instead of Fiyero and Elphaba singing it to each other, Elphaba sings more than half of the song alone, just walking through her swamp house.
Lying beside you, with you wanting me.
She's not even beside him when she sings. Why would you direct it like this?
Somehow I've fallen.
The song Wonderful is similarly pointless, and it's a bummer because I really like this song in the original musical. It doesn't really do much for the story there either, but there's no denying it's a pretty fun song. I do enjoy it. I tap my foot to it. But the movie version doesn't even lean into how silly it is. It's constantly stopping and starting with Jeff Goldblum looking over at Galinda and Elphaba with a, that's awkward face.
Oh. No, well, only verbally?
Oh my God, bass guy.
This number feels so odd. It's supposed to be this giant spectacle of a number, but the room that they're dancing in the end just feels so hollow. Just a large, empty space with nothing going on. All they can do is twirl around and look at the camera. This is a side tangent. I just don't really like the way this number's shot. The script of the film is equally as strange as the songs. What they've added to expand upon the original doesn't really add anything of substance. Scenes are just briefly expanded upon to show more of the relationship between the characters. This is the case with the first Wicked as well. Both of them are films with a lot of little changes from the source material, but no big sweeping structural changes. This works works with the first film, because it's all culminating in a reveal, a twist that the wizard is evil, and every scene that is extended seems to enhance that story. We get to see more of Elphaba learning about magic, something that is paid off in the climactic number at the end of the film. We see Madame Morrible slowly becoming a little more insidious, something paid off at the end of the film. Every change made to the first movie is rewarded by the final act, a very significant and meaningful writing tool that makes movies feel important. So, similarly, with Wicked for Good, many scenes are added to supposedly flesh out the characters, but it feels like with this movie, the screenwriters had a bit of a misunderstanding about what that actually means. Fleshing out characters in a movie means writing their actions in a way that slowly leads to a better understanding of the type of person that they are throughout the film, in a way that services the story. The story and the characters should be one. They can't just be pawns that move around while more important stuff happens around them. But that is exactly the problem with Glinda. Glinda is a character that's incredibly present in Wicked for Good, despite her character kind of fucking off in the second act of the stage show. Early in the movie, we're given a flashback of one of Glinda's birthday parties from when she was a little kid. We see how sad she is that she can't do magic, how embarrassed she is by this fact, and how her mom comforts her by telling her that it doesn't matter, as long as she's liked.
Everyone loves you. Believe me, that's all you'll ever need.
And that's sort of Glinda's arc in this film, her grappling with her need to be liked and her search for herself through it all. She's even given the second of 2 new songs to sing about it, aptly titled The Girl in the Bubble. In it, she sings about how sad she is that she's a girl, and she sure is in that bubble, let me tell you. Glinda's arc is all well and good here. It doesn't really detract from the film all too much, but if I'm being honest, it doesn't add to it much either. All it really does is represent a change within Glinda's character throughout the film, but there's one thing vital about this that I don't think the film reckons with. Glinda's change in Wicked for Good into the more righteous and good person that we see her become happens almost entirely without Elphaba. And this is mostly because Elphaba and Glinda are on 2 entirely different paths in this film. They hardly interact with each other, but because of it, it makes Glinda's arc feel entirely tangential to the plot. Or more importantly, the story. John Chu, in interviews and the commentary for Wicked for Good, brings up a mantra he picked up from Winnie Holtzman, the screenwriter, and Stephen Schwartz, the original composer and lyricist of Wicked. This mantra is, it's about the girls, stupid.
For me, it was what Stephen Schwartz and Winnie and Mark Platt said to me from the very beginning was, the thing that was their guiding light in doing the show was, it's about the girls, stupid.
And this means that Wicked, though about a lot of things, is most importantly about the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda. Everything they do in the story has to evolve the other in some way. Every decision made needs to be affected by each other. But Glinda's understanding of not needing to be liked, or her quest to be good, as Ariana Grande puts it.
She is constantly searching for that meaning of goodness.
Might be affected by Elphaba, but not in any clear way. And this is especially clear in the number, The Girl in the Bubble. She just sings her song about how sad her bubble is and how it needs to pop a while after her and Elphaba fight. She realizes, I guess, that her actions have consequences and she needs to do the right thing, but the song, once again, does very little to explore this idea. Something that Ariana Grande is really proud is shown in this new film.
To go in and see what happens behind the wings, experience that moment with her, that choice, I think that's a really special thing to see.
Isn't even really shown. It just shows her walking around her dope-ass room, and then she goes off to sing about how much she's changed after getting bullied by Madame Morrible one time.
So just do what you do best. Smile. Wave. And shut up.
There's nothing that really springs her to change, no true pain she feels. She just gets chewed out. She can handle being chewed out. Her arc is just so low stakes. Sure, it leads to Nessa dying.
Spread a rumor that her sister's in trouble.
But again, no one seems to give a fuck about that.
Please.
Perhaps you can glean some of this through the subtleties in Ariana Grande's performance, something pointed out by John Chu in the commentary of Wicked for Good.
But she has one thing left to do if she's going to fully become who she is, and it's shed herself, as she looks at this little girl, shed herself of the story that she believed when she was a little girl. That's why I love this look to the wand. Sort of mirrors her look to the wand when she was a young Glinda.
But overall, her arc is just completed without really digging into anything underneath the surface. And it makes Glinda's arc feel less important, though I believe that there's a world in which it works, if given more time. The same thing happens with Nessa, by the way, who just turns evil off screen and little else is explained.
People will say she's just like her sister.
Nessa was nothing like this in the first film, and yeah, I understand this is a problem with the original musical, but if you have the extra time, why not explore something like this? Same with Fiyero. If he's really this conflicted about Elphaba and Glinda, why not give him a song? There are so many characters in this movie, all on their own path, and I can tell that there's some complexity at play, but the film rarely revels in it. I think this problem comes down to one thing, one very Gem and the Holograms-esque problem. Focus. The first Wicked is a generally focused and simple film. It's about Elphaba more than it is about any other character, and everyone's character arc surrounds Elphaba's. Wicked for Good, however, has the unique problem where, at the end of the first film, all of the characters are sort of split up, which makes it hard for their actions to affect each other. So, instead, they give all of the characters some shit to work out on their own, which makes it, as Chu would say, not about the girls, stupid, but about everyone's separate struggles. It puts their relationship in the back seat as it tries to juggle so many different character arcs haphazardly. This kind of harkens back to the problem with the tone, but it feels like the film is afraid to make Elphaba and Glinda hate each other.
Not making it like they kind of actually wanted to kill each other.
But these characters can still be important to each other and hate each other. That's what good drama is. But Wicked's screenplay isn't too focused on providing any emotional subtext or deeper understanding for its characters. At times, it feels like the characters just exist to hit the same emote over and over again, just like Madame Morrible does every time she says the witch is evil.
It's the Wicked Witch! Take cover! She wants to kill us all! This is the work of the Wicked Witch! She wants to kill us all! Oh, no, 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 no!
And like, I get it, she's lying, but can she do anything else? But when you look deeper into Wicked for Good, the film begins to feel hollow. Instead of being a movie driven by the emotions of the characters, Wicked for Good is a movie driven by bullet points. A synopsis of the original stage show with a few scenes added that explain other struggles the characters have to go through, like Glinda feeling like she can't do anything right from her bubble up there, and Elphaba singing to the animals some shit she does not believe. There are too many things unexplained, too many characters that we're told have changed, but with very little explanation or examples of how. Elphaba goes into some beyond world at the end of the film, a land of sand and wind outside of Oz, uncertain of her future. She's changed, supposedly. But how? She pretended to be evil, played the role everyone wanted her to play for the greater good, but how does that mean she's changed within? Instead, we just see her longingly looking back, holding her weird burlap boyfriend, implying that she's changed, but without any proof of it. But I hear you asking, why is any of that John Chu's problem? Well, something else that makes a good director is their ability to choose a script. This is one of Chu's weak points, especially towards the beginning of his career. His fourth film, G.I. Joe Retaliation, isn't quite worth an entire interlude segment, but literally nothing happens in that movie. It's just action porn. Porn has more of a story than that movie. A guy in a black suit drives a motorcycle off a ramp, and then the motorcycle disassembles into 4 different rockets that explode a building. 2 people rappel like Spider-Man, going through these giant mountains, all while being chased by ninjas, also while holding a giant nuclear missile in their hands?
Damn ninjas.
The city of London fucking explodes from a nuke that's dropped from outer space. Okay, so maybe a lot of crazy shit happens in G.I. Joe Retaliation, but the reason that I say nothing happens is because the film gives me no reason to care about what's going on. The characters are total bots. I guess the Rock's character has kids, but we see them once at the beginning of the movie, and then never again.
Enemy contact? All right.
Uncle Duke, you have big ears.
You got a big head. Come here.
And he only even mentions them once after this. Do you not care about your kids? You're at war. Do you not love Sky Jackson? Bruce Willis's character is literally nothing. Just a guy who has a bunch of guns and apparently invented G.I. Joes.
There's a reason we call ourselves Joes.
You never met a
Okay, but who are these people? Why should I care about them? And yeah, I'll bite. I haven't seen the first G.I. Joe movie, but it doesn't really matter because none of those characters are even in this movie. I guess Channing Tatum's character from the first film shows up for the first 15 minutes, but then, in a very step up to the streets fashion, he fucking disappears. Except here, in a very G.I. Joe fashion, he explodes. So why am I talking about G.I. Joe? Max, what the fuck is wrong with you? Well, I think G.I. Joe Retaliation is just a good example of the fact that Chu isn't very good at choosing the scripts for his films. This, we know. Source material matters quite a bit to a film, and it's hard to make a bad script good just through direction alone. But why is this John Chu's problem with Wicked, I hear you say? Even if he chose the script, he joined the project late, and there wasn't much he could do. The script was likely already written. Well, I gotta be honest, you're right, humble viewer. This isn't entirely Chu's problem. The script for Wicked for Good was kind of just bad to begin with. It doesn't address any of the problems with the original musical, and it fails to add any nuance. And really, who's to say that John Chu didn't help Wicked turn into a much better script than it began as? We weren't behind the scenes, we weren't there. I don't really know, save for an hour-long documentary on the bonus features, how they went about making Wicked 2. At least not from any meaningful perspective. But that's the unfortunate thing about being a director, and a question that unfortunately this video can't answer. When a movie is bad, the person who almost always falls on the sword for it is the director. And in this case, the script was not where it needed to be, and people can't help but blame John Chu for that. And is that just? I'm not quite sure. But I think that this problem is twofold. Yes, the script is bad, but there's something else through watching all of Chu's movies that I've discovered to be true of his work. He has a very hard time providing emotional nuance to his films. At the very least, he used to.
Selling out is easy to do. It's not so hard.
Never Say Never is about rising to fame despite the odds. It's about Justin Bieber. You all know Justin Bieber. This film's about when he was a cute little kid. It's a concert film, but more importantly, a documentary about Justin's rise to fame. I always think it's interesting when narrative filmmakers make documentaries. I find the way they present real information to be incredibly telling of their instincts as storytellers. Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man makes no effort to hide the man Timothy Treadwell was. It shows him from every possible perspective, yet usually coming from a place of deep empathy for the man. Scorsese's George Harrison documentary details even the most embarrassing and tragic details of his life for the sake of being authentic to the man behind some of the most iconic songs of all time. If you were to leave out details that are maybe less admirable or show the person being documented in a poor light, you're also leaving out key elements of that person. You wouldn't be telling the story adequately. Truthfully. This complicated and nuanced take on a troubled individual, however, is not what you get with the Justin Bieber documentary. What you get instead is something a lot less interesting, a basic retelling of Justin's life story, all culminating into his performance at Madison Square Garden. The most interesting parts of this movie are the brief glimpses into the life of Justin Bieber, which is fun because a lot of the time, he's a little shit.
So he's back in the crew room, sleeping, napping. Justin walks in, sees him sleeping, and was like, shh. Tells Kenny, goes over. Kenny starts flipping the lights on and off, and Justin just, fire! And he gets up and starts running around, and it's scared. Yeah, he loves it.
But he's a kid, so you understand where he's coming from. At least you kind of do. You see, my problem with a film like Never Say Never is that it's a documentary that keeps you asking questions throughout its entire runtime. This is the sort of thing that a lot of people praise about some movies, but I'm not doing that. This is a bad thing about this movie. We learn about the general life and times of Bieber, sure, but anything deeper than that is left out. There's something left entirely unexplored beneath this documentary, something everyone watching in 2026 is thinking about. In retrospect, we know that Justin Bieber's life wasn't all that great, that it led to him rebelling a lot, getting in trouble with the law, and changing as a person. We know that these fans were also at times weird and infringed on his and his loved ones' personal space. In Never Say Never, we get a glimpse at this, but the film never really explores it. There's a part of this documentary that's been on my mind ever since I watched this film recently, where a friend of Justin's dad reveals that he's been getting calls from fans asking, "Where's Justin?"
No, that's what they do.
Jessica called 3 times today, whoever Jessica is. Can you give me Justin's cell phone number or Ryan's cell phone number?
And that's fucking crazy, right? But the dad seems so dejected because of all of this. He's not quite sure what to do, and the film doesn't explore him any further. We see fans constantly surrounding cars, waiting at Justin's dressing room to see him, yet the film never asks Justin how he truly feels about all of this. As an adult, I watch this and I feel for this poor kid, a kid who loves to perform more than anything, but just can't have a lick of privacy.
You know, he'll sometimes get a little whiny about having a normal life, and I said, you know what, you gave up normal. This is your new normal.
Even when he plays with his friends in the film, cameras are following around, and his friends look so uncomfortable.
These are some animals that my grandpa has collected, and this is a wolf, this is a fox, and me and him were playing like mini sticks one day. And
the film doesn't acknowledge the precedent surrounding child stars, the people that they usually turn into, which, if you're not familiar, isn't very good. That's just not the type of film this is. Instead, the film focuses on making sure we see the entirety of a performance of Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo Lover, a song which even I have to admit is a banger. Thanks, Sean Kingston. May you never be arrested with your mom for fraud in San Bernardino. That's a phrase that people are saying these days. Sean Kingston gets it. My point is, the film shows little interest in what was actually going on in Justin Bieber's life at the time. In 2011, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Bieber was dating Selena Gomez, yet she's not mentioned once in this entire documentary. Why not? To give fans the impression that maybe they could be with Justin Bieber? Romantically? Well, given how much emphasis is placed on him seducing children during One Less Lonely Girl, that certainly seems to be the case. Stop touching her chin like that. Just stop. This film feels more like it was produced by Scooter Braun, the man who found Justin Bieber and would later go on to fuck over Taylor Swift's publishing rights, than it was directed by John M. Chu. The film still has his style, of course. The use of mixed media and home videos of fans lip-syncing and dancing to Justin's music is one of the most Chu things ever. And much like a lot of his other work, the film lacks a deeper understanding of Justin Bieber as a person. We learn the cliff notes of what Bieber's story is, how he went from a scrappy Ontario kid to a huge pop star, but we never really see how he feels about all of it. It could have been nice insight into a kid who, in hindsight, we learned was pretty troubled, which might have made for a really interesting documentary. But instead, that aspect of the story goes untapped. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little charmed by this movie. I saw it when I was a kid and secretly loved it. I thought it was fun to see a kid around my age in such an adult setting, even if at times I thought that his vocal coach was the most obnoxious person on the planet.
You gave up normal. This is your new normal.
But 2 years later, Chu made yet another documentary about Justin. And if you thought Never Say Never was a meaningless fluff piece, well, Believe is a documentary about nothing. Literally nothing. It follows J. Beeb's next show, the Believe Tour, a tour that was actually directed by none other than John M. Chu.
And as soon as he got there, Justin and I just completely cornered him.
They said, you're not leaving this house until you agree to do this show.
Chu is a recurring presence in this film. He's even occasionally on camera, asking Justin the questions himself, a ballsy move for a director. Now, the live show itself, which takes up about half of the film's runtime, seems pretty cool. Chu's love for the loud and frivolous is clear as day as Justin flies into the venue with a pair of wings made out of instruments. But other than some interesting details regarding the production of the tour, this documentary feels like a way to help fix Justin's reputation, something that began to decline right around the time of this film. In the movie, a controversial moment of him threatening paparazzi after following him around all day is shown, along with Justin's explanation.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
That's all little.
I've been chased by those same people the whole trip, and they were talking nonsense the whole time. I learned from that that's what they wanted. They wanted to get a reaction out of me so that they could print that, so that they could make me seem like this, oh, I'm out of control.
It's here that Chu, once again, is given the chance to get Justin to elaborate on this, to figure out what's behind this older, more rebellious Justin. And to his credit, he does. Kind of. He asks an underhanded question about how he feels about all the fame coming his way, and that the world seemingly wants him to fuck it all up.
Do you think about that? And are you conscious that you are the perfect candidate to become a train wreck? You are.
Justin's answer here seems like that of a naive kid, and I'm pretty sure it's fair to say that it is.
There's no train wreck. What? I'm living here, I'm 19 by myself in this great house, just...
But that's where the train wreck can start.
How
because
can-
it's so safe, because it's a bubble.
But
no one can tell you no.
For me, I've seen it happen. I'm not gonna be stupid enough for me to let that happen to myself, because I have a good head on my shoulders.
But the film, after this point, just moves on. It doesn't address any of the other controversy that Justin had been caught in at the time, like him smoking weed. Ooh! Listen, I know it sounds ridiculous in 2026 to care about some teen smoking pot, but at the time it was a pretty big deal, especially given the purity culture surrounding Justin Bieber. And the fact that the film just moves on and takes Justin Bieber's words at face value is pretty lame. As I said before, the best documentaries look at their subjects from all perspectives and try to authentically recreate who they are. But this just isn't that kind of documentary. Justin rarely lets his guard down. Everything feels performative. He's even being interviewed while these dudes sit next to him on the couch.
And he said to me, you can't let the pants wear you, you gotta wear the pants. That's when I started sagging.
That's true. Hey,
and that's your fault.
And we don't learn anything new about Justin in this film. We don't see how he's grown, other than the fact that he's got a little-ass mustache now. Now, I think it's important to address the fact that even documentaries, to a certain extent, have to lie to you. Or at the very least, leave out certain things for the sake of clarity and, frankly, runtime. You cannot capture the entire complexity of a human being, even in a long-ass documentary. Some things just have to be left out. But these two documentaries aren't just leaving out small details, they're leaving out any complexity surrounding the main character. Think of a documentary like a narrative film. They both should tell a basic story. By the end of the film, we should know a little bit more about how Justin sees this massive and sudden rise to fame, but we don't. We know he likes performing, and we know he likes his fans.
My fans, and moments with the fans all started from the fans, so it's gotta end up with the fans. It's all about the fans.
But how has this really affected his life, other than the fact that he doesn't have to go to school anymore?
Low quality Max here. He's 19. He wouldn't have had to really go to school anymore anyway. But you get what I mean.
We learn that he sees his childhood friends less in Never Say Never, and then those guys are entirely absent in Believe. Instead, he's just surrounded by a bunch of dudes in their 30s who enjoy hanging around with a 19-year-old all day on a couch. Cool! Chu asks if he's ever been in love in Believe, and Justin gives the most basic answer.
Of course I've been in love. I think being in love is the most powerful thing ever.
Give us more, Justin. Anything, please. I yearn to understand you.
Have you ever had heartbreak?
Yes, definitely. That's even, I would say it's about even just the same feeling.
Instead of any further exploration of Justin Bieber as a human being, we get a compilation of him doing pranks, and we see Scooter Braun getting off by shushing women and hiding his identity.
We still give away those tickets.
A picture with you? Oh my God. Didn't I hug you once?
Hey, wait, come here. But you're gonna watch the show with me.
Believe has this super schmaltzy ending where we see everyone talk about how much Justin has grown up, but it's just a lot of telling us things that the movie didn't show us.
He's growing so much, and as busy as he is and as much as he has on him.
It seems that a lot has happened since the last movie. Justin does look a lot older than he used to, and he's seen very differently as an adult in the public eye than he was when he was a kid. Why not tell that story? How did he handle his voice change? How did he grapple with growing up in the public eye? Where are his homies that were with him all the time? Did they die? What happened to him? There's a burning subtext here that Justin was about to become, as Chu put it, a bit of a train wreck. The very next year, he was arrested several times for DUIs, among other things, and this film hardly lets on that anything has gone wrong. And I just don't buy that there weren't signs. There were! Oh, and this movie does mention Selena Gomez exactly one time, not in any significant way, but when Nicki Minaj name drops her in this song.
Guns out, Wiener, but I gotta keep an eye out for Selena.
Really quickly, there's also this clip introducing Nicki Minaj that I cannot believe I forgot to put in the script. Why did they edit it like this?
I want to know how Nicki Minaj is going to get on that platform.
Look at her face! I'm sorry. I'm losing my mind editing this. Holy shit.
Both Justin Bieber documentaries set out to do exactly one thing: to tell you a squeaky clean version of the life Justin Bieber has led so far. Same is the case with Wicked. Wicked sets out to adapt the Broadway musical into a movie, and it does little else. It doesn't improve upon the lack of stakes, the messy character development, or thematic inconsistencies. It's just Wicked with more scenes. Wicked for Good specifically shares this same trait with Believe. No new information is given. We already know the wizard is bad, that Galinda is insecure, and that Elphaba is now the Wicked Witch. Every chance on elaborating on anything interesting is passed up to stick to the structure of the original musical, and because of that you question, what does it even really say? Like, what's going on in Fiero's head surrounding his conflict between being with Elphaba or Galinda? Why does Elphaba just go talk to the wizard? What does she think that will do? Why does Nessa hate Elphaba so much? Is there any other resentment other than her not going to her dad's funeral, despite her being a wanted woman?
Father died of shame, and you didn't even bother to show up.
And what really do Elphaba and Galinda have now that they didn't have at the end of the first movie? Fiero? That's lame. Some of these questions are answered, but after that, they're just moved on from, just like Chu moved on from the hard question he asked Justin. And because of that, the film loses its nuance and leaves the audience maybe satisfied, but not thinking about the film any further. Wicked and Wicked for Good, much like the rest of Chu's work, are inoffensive movies. There isn't any major rewrite that says anything problematic or whatever. The songs, for the most part, are lighthearted and fun. The film doesn't have any damaging themes. But I think it is fair to say that these films are, well, forgettable. This is further illustrated by the way that people are talking about them online.
And she brought it back, and I was reunited with my hat.
That's a great story.
People seem to be more fixated on moments like this rather than the actual film.
You two are so important to the autistic community. I hope you know that. You're my ADHD and you're my autism and you're my brain incarnate. We love you.
We love you. God.
We're so drawn to you. Did you not know the neurodivergent? Oh.
We didn't know.
I had no idea.
And I can't blame them. That moment's fascinating. Why would you say that to somebody? But when it comes down to discourse surrounding the film, it seems to have fizzled out. People on Twitter probably still get hateful about Chu as a director, and people on TikTok are probably still laughing about how funny it is when Cynthia Erivo taps her bald little head. But other than that, there's really not much to say about Wicked, and the film has lost a lot of cultural standing because of it. And I think that's in a large part due to how the film lacks nuance, any reason to make you think about it further. I already talked about all of those little plot things that go unanswered, but what about the deeper themes of Wicked as well? The atrocities of racism, the horrors of a tyrant in charge of a country, the reaction one has to betrayal. All of these things are hinted at and danced around, but never fully elaborated on by the film. It's unfocused, and it's lacking nuance, which leaves you asking one thing: what's the point of any of it? What's the point of watching a movie if it's just gonna brush past all of the things it's saying? Why did I watch this movie to begin with? And who am I supposed to blame for that? John M. Chu?
I drank some champagne from your shoe, la la la, I was drunk by the time I got through, la la la.
Crazy Rich Asians is about the intersection of love and class. It's a rom-com from 2018, the first of Chu's films to be met with positive critical reception, and it's an interesting one to say the least. It follows Rachel, a Chinese-American woman who is dating a man named Nick, who she soon finds out when going to visit his family is insanely loaded.
So your family is, like, rich?
We're comfortable.
That is exactly what a super rich person would say.
From that point onward, we see just how different Nick and Rachel's lives were before they met each other. As Rachel is confronted by gregarious family members, jealous women, and his more than strict traditional mom.
You will never be enough.
Now, the film isn't the most brilliant piece of storytelling of all time. It uses almost every trope right out of the rom-com handbook. Two contrasting people in love, a grand gesture at the end to prove that their love matters more than anything, a gay best friend played by Awkwafina.
In reality, you're like a super sophisticated, smart professor of frickin' game theory.
You're right.
Damn straight, I'm right. It's fake land, I'm always right.
It's pretty by the books, but here's something you'll rarely hear a male YouTuber in his 20s say. I actually like a good rom-com. Sure, I don't think Crazy Rich Asians is a perfect film by any means, and there are a lot of sloppy rom-coms out there, but I don't think that the genre is inherently cursed because of it. There are lots of cheap, bad rom-coms, but the same is true for most genres. Cheap horror, cheap comedy, cheap animation. Some movies being cheap and bad shouldn't bastardize the entire genre. I can't just say that all cartoons are bad because of the existence of Hermie and Friends, Busby the Misbehaving Bee.
Hello, Hermie. Hello, Wormy.
Hello, God.
Goodwill. Tangent on rom-coms aside, I'll be honest, Crazy Rich Asians doesn't do much to stand out among the rom-com genre. Except for one thing. It stars almost all Asian people. This might seem like an easy and kind of stupid thing to point out. Wow, Max, Crazy Rich Asians stars a majority Asian cast? Who'da thunk? But at the time, there hadn't been a Hollywood film with a majority Asian cast in movie theaters since 2002. This was a huge deal, a big leap forward for Hollywood, and it's in no small part thanks to John Chu. You see, Chu was offered a deal for millions of dollars to make Crazy Rich Asians for Netflix, as a part of their ongoing effort to destroy movie theaters and everything they stand for. This was a much more favorable deal that included more money, the ability to make 2 sequels, and a lot more creative control for Chu. But understanding the importance of a theatrical release of a movie with an all-Asian cast, Chu rejected this offer in one of the most badass moments of his entire career. And I think this is a testament to the fact that John Chu is not just some guy who gets to make movies. He deeply cares about the craft and the history of film, even if he has a weird way of showing it sometimes. Choosing for this film to go to theaters instead of Netflix was a definite career risk and a moment of true artistic integrity, and I think it's really telling of the type of person that Chu is. What's more is that Chu desperately needed a film like Crazy Rich Asians if he was going to be taken seriously as a director. He was just coming off the failure of Gem and the Holograms and the so-so critical reception of Now You See Me Too, a movie whose name alone is the subject of riveting debate.
I would call it Now You Don't! It would be called Now You Don't!
So this was Chu at his hungriest. He had something to prove, and he had something to say, and the perfect vehicle to do so. And Crazy Rich Asians, luckily for Chu, was incredibly received. The film made hundreds of millions of dollars over its $30 million budget, and people thought it was a generally fresh take on a story heard many times before. And I agree, seeing a rom-com through the lens of a Chinese traditional family versus a Chinese American one is a really compelling aspect, and Chu's style goes hand in hand with the type of film this is. Very over the top. But what's different about Crazy Rich Asians in comparison to Wicked is that it often revels in its simplicity. Sure, it's a pretty by-the-books rom-com, but I feel like because of this, there's a lot of room to make the film centered around how Asian families interact. Now, as a white, I can't really speak to how accurate this aspect of the plot is, but Chu has been very open about how inspired by his family this movie is. And I think it's really telling that when Chu does films that are scaled back about simpler circumstances, his maximalist moments feel much more justified. There's a wedding sequence in this film, one of the most expensive and lavish sequences I've ever seen from Chu, but the focus isn't the spectacle, it's the characters. In a moment that verges on corny, Rachel and Nick mouth "I love you" to each other, yet it's entirely drowned out by the orchestra and the literal river going through the center aisle of the wedding. Call me a big sap, But I love this moment. Is it cliche? Sure, but I don't care. It works. It makes me feel something. It's a really earnest moment, one that's true to the characters, and after watching the rest of Chu's filmography, it's truly one of his best directorial efforts. At the very least, it's his most honest. When Chu takes advantage of simple moments like this and makes it about the characters, his work feels like it's about something. Similar to the wedding scene in Crazy Rich Asians, there's a moment in the first Wicked where Elphaba does this fuck-ass dance alone on the dance floor, and in a moment of non-verbal solidarity, Glinda joins her, which is one of the strongest moments of connection in either film between the two protagonists. This is a real W for John Chu, an entrancing moment that perfectly sets up the themes that he's going for, and I like it a lot. Glinda learns at this moment to drop her cynicism and to join Elphaba in a moment of pure earnestness. Elphaba sees the benefits of being authentically herself, and it's a really touching moment. It's a great scene, and I honestly think it's because of Chu. He took the original scene from the musical and made it even more ceremonious. This slows the film down in a really necessary way so that the focus is purely on the emotional subtext of the scene. But one of my biggest problems with Wicked lies not in this moment, but in the absence of others like it. The rest of both Wicked films stray away from sincere moments like this one, moments that slow the film down and truly show the connection between Elphaba and Glinda. In Wicked for Good, there's a moment where we cut away to a sunset-lit picnic on a hill, and we see Glinda, Elphaba, Nessa, Fiyero, and Bach all having a nice time together. Elphaba and Glinda look at each other with a deep love. This moment is nice and one of the most interesting in Wicked for Good, but that's it. There's never a moment in the second film where these characters interact like this, a moment of true friendship between Elphaba and Glinda, until the very end. There are fleeting moments where we see them together, but what I'm really missing in the second film is the idea that these characters really change because of each other. Chu clearly understands that these sunset bits are some of the most interesting in the second film. The final shot of the movie cuts back to the picnic and shows Glinda whispering to Elphaba, much like the original poster for the Broadway show. And this moment is cool and all. Chu seems to be particularly proud of it.
And the shot that we waited for so many years to show. What does she whisper her? We will never know.
And he explains that the whisper represents the most vulnerable and intimate exchange that can occur among close friends. And I tend to agree with that. Yeah, that is what the whisper represents. But to me, putting it at the very end of the film reeks of unearned payoff. As I've covered, Elphaba and Glinda's relationship is rather unexplored in the second film, and while I think this whisper is a cool homage, it feels cheap. It feels like a way to say, look how important these characters are to each other, without that really being the case throughout the film. It feels right, I guess. It's a cool reference, but I just don't buy it. These actors have amazing chemistry. I think John Chu even brought out a connection between them that's captivating to watch. But the movie spends its runtime with these characters on completely separate journeys, often at odds with one another, but never in a way that feels like it actually matters. Why is their big all-is-lost fight so low stakes? If they really mattered so much to each other, wouldn't they be even more pissed? Why are they so quick to forgive each other? Why do they sing a love song to each other at the end? Albeit, this is a problem with the original musical, but at the very least, that one was fun and silly. This version takes itself so seriously. I'm not even supposed to laugh when I see Jonathan Bailey's fucked up potato sack face. And I'm at a point where I'm not even sure if any of it is John Chu's fault. A lot of it is just the script. The script is bad. Maybe Wicked is just bad. Is Wicked bad? No, this is just bad writing. And I can give a Broadway show from 20 years ago some grace, but for it to be the decade of our Lord, the 2020s, and for you not to change anything of substance, you just add some song about a bubble? This is just bad writing for the love of the game. I once heard a screenwriter say that when a film has two main characters, the protagonist becomes those characters' relationship. You see it with buddy comedies, cop films, and rom-coms. It's the case with Crazy Rich Asians. But with Wicked for Good, the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda is hardly the protagonist, despite the film trying to assert that it is. It's not about the girls stupid. It's rushed. And it doesn't work. While Chu can make the film keep cutting back to that picnic and hold on Ariana Grande's face for as long as he wants, the text just doesn't support it. And for that, I can't even really blame Chu. In this instance, it's once again the fault of the script. So why am I even talking about him? So, after all that, I don't think that Wicked is just a result of John Chu being a bad director, nor is he a hack. Yes, I have a lot of critiques with Chu's directorial efforts with Wicked, but I think that the real problem goes a bit deeper. It's not just Chu's maximalist approach or Chu's misunderstanding of the tone of Wicked. I think the real problem is a lack of synergy between the script, the source material, and Chu. Something worth mentioning about Wicked is that it was a project being worked on for a long time before Chu even became a part of it. Other directors were involved, the film was stuck in developmental hell for quite some time. At one point, Lady Gaga was in talks to be Elphaba. Oh no! So when Chu eventually became a part of the project, it seems that he tried to fit the film into his own style, and tried to bring everything he could out of it, and it just didn't work. What's also worth mentioning is that the screenplay for both Wicked films was written by Winnie Holzman, the original book writer for the stage show. Perhaps she didn't want to change the script too much, given how close she was to the original. And while I said that this could come down to Chu's struggle at picking solid scripts, the screenplays for Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights are both decent enough, and so is the first Wicked film. But the second one fundamentally fails at elaborating on any of the previous film's themes, and that isn't necessarily Chu's fault. You can see he tried to make it about Glinda and Elphaba, but you can only go so far to save a script that has this little reverence for building a moment. While the first Wicked film feels like it's building towards defying gravity, everything culminates in that number, the second film doesn't feel like it's all leading to For Good. It feels like it's leading to a bunch of different climactic numbers, which makes the one that actually exists in the show way less impactful. It feels that John Chu's efforts as a director conflict with the script itself, because it's the script that keeps the campy moments from the original, though that doesn't feel like the film that Chu wanted to make. He wanted to make a maximalist, gigantic, spectacle-driven movie musical, where even the slow moments are big. And all of that is conflicting with the fact that the film is based on the rushed second act of Wicked, that had no interest in divulging in any of the complexity between the characters, or explaining things left out that would tie it in to The Wizard of Oz. All of those things make Wicked for Good a pretty mediocre movie, and while John Chu's direction certainly didn't help the film, I don't think it's the only thing that was going against it. So, did John Chu ruin Wicked? Well, kinda, but not on his own, and not really. What frustrates me about this conclusion is that it's not very clickbaity. I can't just make the thumbnail a picture of John Chu with devil horns calling him a sin demon for destroying the beloved musical Wicked, because I don't think that he's truly at the crux of every problem with the film. It does take a village to make a film. It's not just one person. And while Chu is the leader, I think what happened with Wicked is more intricate than we can really know. But I think in this instance, as I said is the case with every movie, Chu has to fall on the sword. He has to take the brunt of the criticism. And whether or not it's truly deserved, who can know? And I've been feeling pretty frustrated about this conclusion, this pretty nuanced take on the film. And that's stupid too. While it makes for a much simpler YouTube video, why should I hope that my conclusion is that John Chu is shit at making movies? So the video can be shorter? I gave up on that hope a long time ago. The truth is, John Chu just isn't one of the worst directors of all time. I think he's some of the reason the Wicked films aren't amazing, but not all of it. I think he's a weird director who makes some weird decisions, some of which are not good, but I don't think he's terrible overall. And I think, importantly, he's a pretty nice guy. Maybe his movies aren't full of the complexities I'd hope for them to be, and are more often than not full of flash and style over actual substance. Maybe I don't even like a lot of them, and I think that Wicked missed the mark overall. But if I've learned anything from watching all of John Chu's movies, It's that he's very human, and I think his work is very indicative of that fact. His filmography isn't linear, it's messy, it's full of ups and downs and confusion. There's not one story I can extract from his work to explain what kind of director, artist, or person he is, because he's a complex and flawed human being. We all are. In his work, you can see a director struggling to come to terms with his Asian American identity. In his work, you can see his willingness to become a cog in the Hollywood machine, making a bunch of Hollywood sequels, and then trying to break out of that. You can see from his work a director struggling to find their voice, trying to carve their own path, and failing a lot, but getting back up every time. And I think that makes Jon Chu, overall, a pretty beautiful director. I don't care if G.I. Joe Retaliation is full of plot holes, or if Gem and the Holograms is full of songs that make my ears bleed. I think there's still a lot to learn from Jon Chu. His work is very human, and somehow, that's a beautiful thing. And I hope with this video I've demonstrated that. It's a bummer that Wicked isn't the best film duology of all time. It's too serious and has a messy tone, it's not complex enough, way too maximalist with little effort put into the arcs of the characters, and some of the musical numbers are shot like poop. But that can still suck, and it very much does, and not mean that Jon Chu is washed. Two things can be true. When I came up with this video, I thought that it would just be funny to watch all of Jon Chu's movies and talk about how all of those problems are present in Wicked. But throughout it all, I've become worried. Worried it'll come off mean-spirited or hateful against his films. And while I don't care for the bulk of them, I don't hate any of these movies. I've said my problems with them. I've said my piece. And though Wicked now seems like the peak of his career, I really hope that Chu continues to find himself through his work, as he said he did with Crazy Rich Asians and even In the Heights. And I'm sure he did in some meaningful way with Wicked too, even if it's not nearly as clear as I would have liked it to be. I just hope that Jon Chu realizes that his voice is important as any of the other things that's gotten him to where he is now. And I hope that his voice continues to grow as he directs the 5 films that he's slated to direct. Jesus, dude, just pick one. So the question is not, is Jon M. Chu a hack? He can't be a hack. Hacks aren't easy to work with, and hacks don't decline millions of dollars from Netflix just for the importance of the medium. Nor is he inherently a bad director. I try to steer clear of terms like this to describe artists because I don't think that they're that helpful, and honestly, they're just not that nice. The more interesting question, really, is when will Jon M. Chu realize that his voice matters? Hopefully one day he will take advantage of what makes him unique, because there are times where he can be a really great director. I just hope that at one point he stops trying to prove it to us. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope you've all been doing well. I've missed you guys dearly, and I'm just excited to be making a YouTube video again. It feels good. It feels fun. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It's just exciting to be making YouTube videos again. What a novel job that I get to have. Just doing that all the time. So that's fun. If you care to be redirected by an actual human and not an algorithm telling you what you might want to watch, probably recommending that same episode of the Frenemies podcast that you watch to fall asleep every night, might I recommend more of my videos. If you like the video essay style, I'd recommend my Mean Girls video, or maybe my one I made about Wish a couple years back. But if you want something a little more lighthearted, I recently did a retrospective of the Tinkerbell series. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll tell you, it exists, and it's on the YouTube channel, Maxwell Green. Anyway, it's good to be back. I hope you all have had a wonderful 2026 so far. I know that I have. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I love and adore and respect and adore you. Please come back, please. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Uranus. We will all go simultaneous. Yes, we all will go together when we all go together. Yes, we all will go together when we go.